The hospital lights flicker overhead as Lena Ardent signs away her life with a single stroke of the pen. Across the desk sits Rico Varela, a man whose reputation bleeds through the city like ink through water. He doesn't smile. Doesn't need to. Her father's survival depends on this signature, and they both know it. You understand what you're agreeing to? His voice is cold steel. Lena's hand trembles, but she doesn't look away. I understand. The contract slides across mahogany. Marriage, servitude, survival. The devil doesn't negotiate. He collects. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this tale travels. The antiseptic smell of St. Michael's Hospital had become Lena's second skin over the past 3 weeks. She knew every crack in the waiting room ceiling, every stain on the linoleum floor, every nurse's shift change down to the minute. Room 447. 4th floor. Eastern wing. Her father's room. The place where time moved differently. Slower, heavier, like wading through concrete. Miss Ardent? Lena looked up from her cold coffee. Dr. Pearson stood in the doorway, his face wearing that expression doctors practiced in medical school. The one that said, I'm about to ruin your life, but professionally. Can we talk in my office? She followed him down the corridor, her sneakers squeaking against the floor. The office was small, cluttered with medical journals and a dying succulent on the windowsill. Dr. Pearson didn't sit. Neither did she. Your father's kidneys function has deteriorated significantly over the past 72 hours. We've moved him to the top of the transplant list, but... He paused, adjusted his glasses. Miss Ardent, he needs the surgery within the next 2 weeks, maybe less. Okay. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. So we wait for a donor. The surgery alone will cost between $300,000 and $400,000. That's not including post-operative care, medications, potential complications. I know. She'd heard this speech before, different words, same meaning. Your father is dying and you can't afford to save him. Dr. Pearson's expression softened. I've tried every assistance program, every grant, I said I know. Lena's jaw tightened. I'll figure something out. She left before he could offer empty reassurances. The walk back to her father's room felt longer than usual. Through the small window in the door, she could see him sleeping, his chest rising and falling with mechanical assistance. Thomas Ardent had been a giant once, 6'3", broad shoulders, hands that could build anything. Now he looked shrunken, folded into himself like origami. Lena pressed her forehead against the cool glass. 26 years old, 2 jobs that barely covered rent, and a degree in art history that qualified her for exactly nothing useful. Her phone buzzed. Rent reminder. Past due. She laughed, actually laughed. The sound echoed weird in the empty hallway. Something funny? Lena spun around. The woman standing behind her wore a black suit that probably cost more than Lena made in 6 months. Mid-40s, sharp features, sharper eyes. She held a leather portfolio under one arm. Who are you? My name is Vera Castillo. I work for someone who might be able to help your father. The woman's voice was smooth, practiced. May we talk? I'm not interested in whatever scam. Rico Varela would like to meet with you. The name landed like a stone in still water. Everyone in the city knew that name. Rico Varela, the man who owned half the real estate downtown. The man whose business ventures existed in the gray space between legal and lethal. The man connected to every unsolved crime in the past decade, yet untouchable by law. Why? Lena's mouth felt dry. Because he can save your father's life. Vera extended a business card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, an address downtown. Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock. Come alone. And if I don't? Vera's smile didn't reach her eyes. Then you'll bury your father by the end of the month. She walked away, heels clicking against linoleum, leaving Lena holding a card that felt like holding a live wire. The building stood in the financial district, all glass and steel reaching toward a gray sky. The lobby alone screamed money. Marble floors, abstract art that probably cost more than a house. A security desk manned by 2 guys who looked like they ate CrossFit trainers for breakfast. Lena gave her name. One of them made a call. 30 seconds later, she was in an elevator climbing toward the penthouse. Her reflection stared back from polished brass. She'd worn her only professional outfit: black slacks, white blouse, a blazer with a small stain on the cuff she'd tried to hide. Her dark hair was pulled back, no makeup. She looked exactly like what she was: desperate. The elevator opened directly into an office that occupied the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture was minimal, expensive, chosen by someone who understood power didn't need to announce itself. Rico Varela stood with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. I don't care about his excuses. The shipment arrives Thursday, or he doesn't arrive anywhere ever again. He ended the call, turned around. Lena had seen his picture before. Grainy surveillance photos and news articles, distant shots from charity events. None of them prepared her for the reality. He was younger than she expected. Maybe 35, maybe older. The kind of face that didn't show age so much as accumulate it deliberately. Dark hair, darker eyes, a scar along his jaw that he didn't bother hiding. He wore a suit like armor. Everything about him was precise, controlled, dangerous. Miss Ardent, thank you for coming. His voice matched everything else about him. Low, measured, the kind of voice that didn't need to raise itself to be heard. Your assistant said you could help my father. Straight to business. I appreciate that. Rico gestured toward a chair. Please. Lena remained standing. What do you want? Something flickered across his face. Amusement, maybe? Or approval. He moved to the desk, pressed a button. A screen emerged from the wood surface, displaying her father's medical records in precise detail. Thomas Ardent, 58 years old, end-stage renal disease, removed from the donor list twice due to complications. Current estimated survival without transplant, 2 weeks. Rico's eyes met hers. I can have him in surgery within 48 hours. Private facility, best surgeons on the East Coast, full recovery care, medications, everything he needs. Why? Because I need something from you. The room felt smaller suddenly. Lena's hands curled into fists. I don't have money. I don't need money. Then what? Rico opened a drawer, removed a document. He placed it on the desk between them. A marriage contract. The words didn't make sense at first. Lena stared at the papers, then at him. What? You marry me. Public ceremony, legal documentation, full commitment. You move into my home, appear at my side for business functions, play the role of devoted wife. His tone remained clinical, like he was negotiating a real estate deal. In exchange, your father receives his transplant and lifetime medical care. You receive financial security. Your rent, your debts, erased. You're insane. I'm practical. Rico leaned against the desk, arms crossed. I need a wife. Not for love. For legitimacy. My business interests require a certain public image. A family man is trusted, respected. A single man in my position invites questions, scrutiny, weakness. Find someone else. I did. 4 months of searching. You're the one I chose. Lena's laugh came out harsh. Because I'm desperate? Because you're genuine. Everyone else I investigated was performing, trying to be what they thought I wanted. Rico's gaze didn't waver. You're here because you love your father enough to meet with a man like me. That kind of loyalty can't be faked. This is human trafficking. This is a business transaction. You're free to refuse. Walk out that door right now. No consequences. He paused. Of course, your father dies. You spend the rest of your life knowing you could have saved him and chose not to. Lena's vision blurred at the edges. She wanted to hit him, wanted to scream, wanted to do anything except stand there feeling the walls close in. How long? Her voice cracked. 3 years minimum. After that, we can renegotiate or part ways. You'll receive a settlement regardless. Rico pushed the contract toward her. Read it. Take it to a lawyer if you want. You have 24 hours to decide. She picked up the document with shaking hands. 27 pages. Legal language that swam before her eyes. Words like binding, obligations, termination clauses. On the final page, 2 signature lines. His was already signed. What kind of man does this? Rico's expression didn't change. The kind who always gets what he needs. Lena didn't sleep that night. She sat in her father's hospital room, the contract spread across her lap, reading the same paragraphs over and over while machines beeped their steady rhythm. Her father woke around 3 a.m. His eyes found her in the dim light. "Baby girl," his voice was paper thin. "You should go home." "I'm fine here." "Liar." A weak smile. "You're thinking too loud. I can hear it from here." Lena set the contract aside, moved to his bedside. She took his hand, still large, but the strength was gone. "Dad, if you could do something to save someone you love, but it meant giving up everything you wanted for yourself, would you do it?" Thomas studied her face for a long moment. "Is this about me?" She couldn't answer. "Lena." He squeezed her hand with what little strength he had. "I've lived my life. Good life. Bad parts too. But good overall. You're just starting. Don't throw away your future for a dying old man. You're not dying. Everyone's dying, sweetheart. I'm just doing it faster." He coughed, winced. "Whatever you're considering, promise me it's what you want, not what you think I need." Lena kissed his forehead. Didn't promise anything. The next evening, she stood in Rico's office again. Same view, same expensive furniture, same man who looked at her like she was a problem to be solved. "I have conditions," Lena said. Rico raised an eyebrow. "You're negotiating?" "My father never knows the truth about why we married. As far as he's concerned, we met, fell in love, moved fast. He gets to die." Her voice caught. "He gets to live thinking his daughter is happy." "Agreed. I keep my job. Both of them." "No, that's not negotiable." Rico's jaw tightened. "You'll be my wife. You'll have responsibilities that won't accommodate waitressing at a diner and retail work. Those jobs are mine. I earned them. I keep them." They stared at each other. The city lights glittered behind Rico's head like a constellation of bad decisions. "One job," he said finally. "You choose which, the other you quit." "Fine." Lena moved to the desk. "I need a pen." Rico handed her an expensive fountain pen. She held it over the signature line, hand steady this time. 26 years of freedom ending with a stroke of ink. "Last chance to walk away, was," Rico said. Lena signed her name. Rico countered with his own signature, then picked up his phone. "It's done. Prep the surgical team." He ended the call, looked at Lena. "Your father's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning. I'll have someone collect you at 6. "Just like that?" "Just like that." Rico opened another drawer, removed a small box. He placed it on the desk. "You'll need this." Inside was a ring. Simple platinum band, single diamond. Beautiful, expensive, wrong. "I can't." "You can. You will." Rico's tone left no room for argument. "We're engaged as of this moment. The public story is that we've been seeing each other quietly for 3 months. Your father's illness accelerated our timeline. Romantic, even." Lena slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Rico Varela didn't do anything without precision. "When's the wedding?" 2 weeks. Small ceremony, immediate family only, then a larger reception for business associates. Rico moved to the window, hands in his pockets. "You'll move into my home this weekend. Vera will help you pack." "I didn't agree to, You agreed to everything the moment you signed that contract." He turned to face her. "You're mine now, Miss Ardent. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." The ring felt heavy on her finger, like a shackle made of diamonds. Thomas Ardent's surgery took 8 hours. Lena spent every minute in the waiting room, counting ceiling tiles, drinking terrible coffee, and trying not to think about what she'd done. Rico arrived around hour 5, sitting 3 chairs away without speaking. He answered emails on his phone, made 2 calls in Italian, and left after 20 minutes without saying goodbye. When Dr. Pearson finally emerged, still in his surgical cap, Lena couldn't read his expression. The transplant was successful. Lena's knees buckled. She sat down hard, unable to process the words. Successful. Her father was alive. "He'll need to stay in ICU for a few days, but barring complications, he should make a full recovery." Dr. Pearson sat beside her. "I don't know who you talked to or what strings you pulled, but that kidney was a perfect match. The donor, whoever they were, saved your father's life." Lena nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in her throat. You can see him in about an hour. He'll be sedated, but he should be able to hear you. When they finally let her into the ICU, her father looked smaller than ever against the white sheets, but his chest rose and fell steadily. The monitors beeped a healthier rhythm. Color had returned to his face. Lena took his hand. Hey, Dad, you made it. You're going to be okay. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused but present. Baby girl, I'm here. You shouldn't have. He coughed weakly. Whatever you did, I hope it was worth it. She squeezed his hand, lied with a smile. I fell in love, Dad. His name is Rico. We're getting married. Her father smiled, believed her, drifted back to sleep with that smile still on his face. Lena stayed until the nurses kicked her out at midnight. In the parking garage, she found Vera waiting beside a black town car. Mr. Varela wants you at the house this weekend. I'll help you pack Friday evening. I haven't even told my roommate. Tell her. Vera opened the car door. I'll drive you home. The apartment Lena shared with two other girls was in a neighborhood the city forgot to gentrify. Third-floor walk-up, radiator that clanged like ghost fighting, water pressure that ranged from trickle to assault. It was cheap and familiar, and hers. Not anymore. Okay. Friday came too fast. Vera arrived at 6 p.m. sharp, accompanied by two men who looked like they'd been carved from granite. Lena's roommates, Jessica and Amanda, watched the whole thing with wide eyes. So you're just leaving? Jessica sat on the couch, still in her barista apron. Moving in with some guy we've never met? It happened fast. Lena folded a sweater, placed it in the suitcase. The lie tasted like metal. I love him. He loves me. Sometimes you just know. Amanda frowned. Lena, this is insane. You've been working doubles, stressing about your dad, barely sleeping. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking fine. No. Amanda moved to block the suitcase. You're making decisions from a place of crisis. That's different. Lena met her friend's eyes. Amanda had been there through everything. The late-night crying sessions, the financial panic attacks, the moments when giving up felt easier than fighting. She deserved better than lies. But the truth would destroy everything. I need you to trust me, Lena said quietly. Please. Amanda stared at her for a long moment, then stepped back. Okay, but if this guy turns out to be an asshole, you call me. Day or night, I'll come get you. Deal. The packing took an hour. Clothes, books, the few photographs she owned. Her entire life fit into 3 suitcases and a backpack. Vera supervised without comment, those sharp eyes cataloging everything. The car ride took them out of Lena's neighborhood, through downtown, into an area where houses had gates and trees that didn't grow from sidewalk cracks. Rico's home sat at the end of a private drive, modern architecture, all clean lines and massive windows. Not a home, an estate. Mr. Varela is working late, Vera said as they pulled through the gate. I'll show you to your room. Our room, you mean? Vera's expression remained neutral. Your room. Mr. Varela keeps separate quarters. You'll share public spaces only. The house was exactly what Lena expected. Expensive, cold, impersonal. They walked through rooms that looked like magazine spreads, everything white and chrome and untouched. The room Vera led her to was on the 2nd floor, facing the back gardens. Large bed, attached bathroom, walk-in closet. You have access to the entire house except Mr. Varela's office and bedroom. Meals are prepared by the house staff. If you need anything, press this. Vera indicated a small panel by the door. Someone will respond within minutes. Where's Rico? Mr. Varela. Excuse me? In public, you may call him Rico. In private, when staff are present, you will address him as Mr. Varela. Vera's tone was ice. Do you understand? Lena wanted to argue, wanted to tell this woman exactly where she could put her rules. But she was exhausted, and fighting Vera felt like punching a wall, painful and pointless. I understand. Good. Dinner is at 8. Someone will come get you. Vera turned to leave, paused at the door. Miss Ardent, Lena. I've worked for Mr. Varela for 6 years. I've seen him negotiate deals that would make most men weep. He's brilliant, ruthless, and utterly without mercy when crossed. She met Lena's eyes. But he keeps his word. Always. You signed a contract. He'll honor every clause. I suggest you do the same. The door closed with a soft click. Lena stood in the center of the room. Room, her prison, her future, and felt the full weight of what she'd done settle onto her shoulders. She'd sold herself to save her father, made a deal with a man who collected people like assets. The ring on her finger caught the light, throwing rainbows across the white walls. She was Mrs. Rico Varela now, or would be in 2 weeks. The thought made her laugh, then cry, then laugh again until the sounds tangled into something that wasn't quite either. But, Rico came home around midnight. Lena heard the front door, heard voices in the foyer, his low rumble and someone else's higher pitch. A woman laughing. The sound of footsteps on stairs that didn't come toward her room. She sat on the bed in the dark, wearing an old t-shirt and shorts, listening to her fiancé entertain someone else in his private quarters. The walls were thick enough that she couldn't make out words, but the rhythm was clear enough. Business meeting. Or something else. Maybe it didn't matter which. Around 2 a.m., a door opened and closed. Female footsteps descending stairs. The front door. Silence. Lena didn't sleep that night either. Marchant. Morning came with a knock on her door. A woman in a crisp uniform entered carrying a breakfast tray. Coffee, toast, fruit, eggs prepared perfectly. She set it on the small table by the window without speaking, then left. Lena stared at the food. Couldn't eat. The coffee tasted expensive and wrong. She was exploring the bathroom, marble everything, shower big enough for 4 people, products that probably cost more than her monthly rent used to be. When another knock interrupted. Come in. Rico entered without waiting for full permission. He wore workout clothes, hair damp from a shower, looking frustratingly human, normal, not like a man who trafficked in violence and fear. We need to talk about logistics, he said, no preamble. The wedding is Saturday, 1 week from tomorrow. You'll need a dress. Vera has appointments scheduled. Good morning to you too. Rico's jaw tightened. We're not going to pretend this is a fairy tale, Miss Ardent. It's Lena, and I'm aware. She crossed her arms. You had a visitor last night. That's none of your concern. You're my fiancé. On paper. Rico moved to the window, looked out at the gardens. The contract doesn't include fidelity clauses. What I do in my private time remains private. Something hot and sharp twisted in Lena's chest. Not jealousy. She had no claim to jealousy, but the dismissiveness stung anyway. Fine. Then I have the same freedom. Rico turned to look at her. Really look. His expression was unreadable. No. Excuse me? You're about to become my wife. You will conduct yourself as such. No other men. No romantic entanglements. No behavior that reflects poorly on this household. That's incredibly hypocritical. That's the deal. Rico's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. You signed the contract. You accepted the terms. This is what you agreed to. I agreed to save my father, not to be your property. You agreed to be my wife. In this world, for people like me, that's the same thing. He moved toward the door, stopped with his hand on the handle. Vera will be here in an hour. Don't keep her waiting. The door closed behind him. Lena stood frozen, rage building in her throat like pressure behind a dam. She looked around the beautiful room, the expensive furniture, the golden cage she'd chosen. Then she picked up the coffee cup and threw it at the wall. The ceramic shattered. Brown liquid dripped down white paint. The sound was satisfying and utterly insufficient. A minute later, the door opened again. Not Rico, not Vera. A young woman in the same uniform as earlier, carrying cleaning supplies. She didn't look surprised by the mess. She just knelt and started wiping, efficient and silent. I'm sorry, Lena said. I didn't mean, I'll clean it, Bon. The woman glanced up, something like understanding in her eyes. It's okay, miss. Walls can be fixed. She left with the broken pieces, and Lena was alone again with the spreading stain and the weight of 1 week until she stopped being Lena Ardent and became someone else entirely. But Vera arrived exactly 1 hour later. She surveyed the coffee stain without comment, then gestured toward the door. We have 4 appointments today. Dress fitting, hair consultation, photographer for engagement pictures, and dinner with Mr. Varela's mother. His what? His mother, Sofia Varela. She's flying in from Italy specifically to meet you. Vera's expression remained neutral. I suggest you practice your smile. The dress appointment was at a boutique in the city's most expensive shopping district. The owner greeted them like royalty, which probably meant Rico had paid handsomely for privacy. They led Lena to a private room where 3 assistants waited with racks of wedding gowns. We were told you prefer simplicity, one of them said, bringing forward a dress. Nothing too ornate. Lena touched the fabric, silk. Probably cost more than her college education. It's beautiful. Try it on. The next 2 hours were a blur of changing rooms, seamstress pins, and mirrors reflecting a version of herself that didn't quite feel real. The dress they settled on was elegant, sleeveless, fitted bodice, flowing skirt. The kind of dress that would photograph well and make her look like she belonged in Rico's world. Perfect, Vera declared. We'll have it delivered Wednesday. The hair consultation was shorter. The stylist examined Lena's dark hair with professional consideration, suggested an updo with loose curls, demonstrated with pins and product. Lena nodded at everything, stopped paying attention after 5 minutes. Engagement photos happened in the same building as Rico's office. A professional photographer, expensive equipment, a white backdrop that reminded Lena of surrender flags. Rico appeared exactly on time, still wearing his suit from earlier. Let's make this quick, he said to the photographer. I have a meeting at 4. They posed like strangers forced into proximity. Rico's hand on her waist felt foreign. When the photographer asked them to smile, Lena's face hurt from the effort. More intimate, the photographer urged. You're in love. Show it. Rico pulled her closer. His breath was warm against her temple when he whispered, Sell it better. Maybe if you didn't look like you were at a funeral. His hand tightened on her waist. To the camera, it probably looked affectionate. Lena felt the warning. Beautiful. The photographer snapped away. Perfect chemistry. Liar, Lena thought. We have the chemistry of oil and water. But she smiled harder, leaned into Rico's chest, let him tilt her chin up like she was something precious. The camera loved it. Captured what looked like genuine affection between 2 people who barely knew each other's middle names. When it was over, Rico left without saying goodbye. Again. Basen. Dinner with Sofia Varela happened at a restaurant that didn't have prices on the menu. Vera briefed Lena in the car on the way over. Mrs. Varela is traditional, old-world values. She believes in family, loyalty, and the importance of a strong wife standing beside her husband. Vera paused. She also doesn't speak much English. Rico will translate. Great. Be respectful. Don't interrupt when she's speaking. And for the love of everything, do not mention how you actually met her son. The restaurant was intimate. Private room, single table, lighting designed to make everyone look wealthy. Sofia Varela was already seated when they arrived, and Lena understood immediately where Rico got his presents. The woman was in her 60s, silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a dress that probably had a designer pedigree. Her eyes were sharp as broken glass. She spoke in rapid Italian when she saw Lena. Rico, standing at her shoulder, translated. She says you're prettier than she expected. Tell her thank you. More Italian. Sofia studied Lena like a science experiment. She wants to know about your family. Lena sat across from the woman, meeting those sharp eyes directly. Tell her my mother died when I was 12. My father is recovering from a transplant. I have no siblings. My family is small, but we love each other fiercely. Rico translated. Something shifted in Sofia's expression. Not warmth exactly, but recognition. Sofia spoke again, longer this time. Rico's jaw tightened as he listened. She says family is everything. Blood is sacred. You marry her son. You marry into the Varela name. That name is built on loyalty, respect, and strength. He paused. She says weak women have no place in this family. Are you weak, Lena? The question hung in the air. Lena felt Vera watching her, felt Sofia's evaluating gaze, felt Rico's carefully neutral expression that somehow felt like a test. No, Lena said, keeping her voice steady. I'm not weak. I'm here, aren't I? I signed the contract. I'll stand beside your son and I won't break. Tell her that. Rico translated. Sofia listened. Then she smiled. Small, knowing, dangerous. She spoke again, and this time Rico's translation came softer. She says you'll do. Dinner was elaborate courses of food Lena couldn't identify and wine that tasted like expensive regret. Sophia asked questions through Rico about Lena's education, her interests, her thoughts on marriage and children. That last one made Lena choke on her water. Children? She managed. Rico's expression remained blank. The contract specifies potential children after year 2 if mutually agreed. I must have missed that clause. You should have read more carefully. Sophia said something sharp in Italian. Rico responded in kind, his tone respectful but firm. They went back and forth for a moment before Sophia waved a dismissive hand and returned to her food. What did she say? Lena asked. She said, I should have chosen someone more traditional. Rico cut his steak with precise movements. I told her you were exactly what I needed. The words should have felt like a compliment. Somehow they felt like being categorized, labeled, filed away in whatever system Rico used to organize his life. After dinner, Sophia kissed both of Rico's cheeks and then, surprisingly, both of Lena's. She spoke directly to her in accented English this time. You strong. Good. He needs strong. She patted Lena's face almost affectionately. You break, he break everything. Remember. Then she was gone, leaving Lena with the distinct impression she'd just been threatened and blessed simultaneously. In the car afterward, Rico stared out the window, silent. Your mother is intense, Lena said finally. My mother survived things that would destroy most people. She earned her intensity. Rico glanced at her. She likes you. That's unexpected. Should I be honored? You should be careful. She doesn't like easily, but when she does, she expects perfection. Betray that and... He made a cutting gesture with his hand. More threats. Great. Not threats, facts. Rico's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. I need to handle something. Vera will take you home. It's your home, not mine. Legally, after Saturday, it will be both. He opened the door, paused. Thank you. For dinner. You handled my mother better than most. He was gone before Lena could respond. Vera slid into the seat he'd vacated. Home? She asked. Lena nodded, too tired to argue about vocabulary. The house was dark when they arrived. Vera walked her to her room, lingered in the doorway. You surprised me today, she said. Most people crumble under Sofia Varella's scrutiny. I've had practice with intimidating people lately. Vera's smile was thin. Fair point. Sleep well, Lena. Tomorrow we start preparing for the actual ceremony. Alone again, Lena changed into pajamas and lay in the too big bed staring at the ceiling. 6 more days. Then she would stand in front of witnesses and lie her way through vows, promising forever to a man she barely knew who kept her at arm's length while keeping other women closer. The thought made her chest ache with something that wasn't quite grief but lived in the same neighborhood. Her phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. How's the love nest? He better be treating you right. Lena typed a response. Deleted it. Typed again. Everything's fine. Really good, actually. We'll call soon. More lies. They were getting easier. She fell asleep with the ring still on her finger, the weight of it now familiar enough to forget. Almost. The wedding happened on a Saturday that dawned gray and cold. Lena woke at 5 a.m. to find Vera already in her room, accompanied by a team of stylists who descended like a well-organized army. Hair, makeup, nails, everything polished until she looked like someone else entirely. The woman staring back from the mirror wore the face of a bride, but her eyes told a different story. You look beautiful, Vera said, adjusting the veil. Mr. Varela will be pleased. That's what matters, right? His pleasure. Vera's hand stilled. You're angry. I'm a lot of things. Lena stood, the dress rustling around her legs. Angry is just the loudest right now. The ceremony was at Rico's estate, set up in the back gardens despite the threatening clouds. White chairs arranged in rows, an archway wrapped in flowers that probably cost more than most people's cars. 50 guests, his business associates, a few family members from Italy, her father in a wheelchair pushed by a nurse Rico had hired specifically for the day. Thomas Ardent looked stronger already, color back in his cheeks, eyes clear. When he saw Lena in her dress, he started crying. Baby girl, you look just like your mother. Lena kissed his cheek, tasting salt. Don't make me ruin my makeup before I even walk down the aisle. I just wish she could see you. She'd be so proud. The lie sat heavy on Lena's tongue. Her mother would have seen through this charade in seconds, would have dragged Lena away by the ear and demanded better. But her mother was 10 years dead, and her father was alive because of this farce. So Lena swallowed the truth and smiled. I know, Dad. Me too. Music started. String quartet playing something classical that Lena didn't recognize. Vera gave her a bouquet, white roses, naturally, and suddenly it was happening. She was walking down an aisle between strangers toward a man who'd bought her like real estate, and everyone was smiling like this was normal. Rico stood under the archway wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her old car. His expression was unreadable as always, but something flickered in his eyes when he saw her. Surprise? Appreciation? Whatever it was disappeared before she could name it. The officiant was some judge Rico knew, speaking words about love and commitment that felt obscene given the circumstances. Lena heard herself responding at the right moments, saying, I do, when prompted, accepting the ring Rico slid onto her finger, a match to the engagement ring, because of course he'd planned that far ahead. Then it was her turn. She held Rico's hand, warm, calloused, surprisingly human, and slipped the band onto his finger. The judge pronounced them married. Rico kissed her, quick and businesslike, his lips barely brushing hers. The crowd applauded. Her father cheered from his wheelchair. It was done. Mrs. Lena Varela smiled for photographs, accepted congratulations from people whose names she didn't catch, and drank champagne that tasted like regret. Rico stayed at her side for appearances, his hand on her lower back possessive and performative. To everyone watching, they were perfect. Young love, quick engagement, beautiful ceremony. Only Lena felt the distance between them, the careful inch of space he maintained even while touching her. The reception moved inside as the sky opened up, rain hammering against the windows. Dinner was served, speeches were made, and through it all, Lena played her part. She laughed at jokes she didn't find funny, thanked people for gifts she didn't want, and pretended the ring on her finger meant something other than ownership. Around 9, her father started fading. The nurse wheeled him over to say goodbye. I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. He squeezed her hand. Rico's a good man, I can tell. How can you tell? The question came out sharper than intended. Thomas smiled, exhausted but content. The way he looks at you, like you're the most important thing in the room. That's how I used to look at your mother. Lena glanced at Rico, who was across the room talking to a man in an expensive suit. He wasn't looking at her at all. Yeah, Dad, just like that. After her father left, the party shifted. More alcohol, louder music, the business associates dropping their polite masks to reveal the wolves underneath. Lena recognized some of them from news articles. Connected to this scandal or that investigation, always skating just inside the legal line. These were Rico's people. His world. Her world now. A man approached her at the bar, mid-40s, slicked back hair, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mrs. Varela, congratulations. Thank you. Marcus Delano. I work with your husband on various ventures. He ordered a scotch. Neat. I have to say, Rico surprised us all. We didn't think he'd ever settle down. People change. Do they? Marcus studied her over his glass. Or do they just get better at hiding what they've always been? Before Lena could respond, Rico appeared at her side. His hand found her waist, pulling her close in a gesture that looked affectionate but felt like a claim. Marcus, enjoying yourself? Immensely. Your wife and I were just getting acquainted. How nice. Rico's tone could have frozen water. If you'll excuse us, I need to steal her away. He guided Lena through the crowd, his grip firm. They ended up in a quiet hallway away from the noise. Stay away from Marcus Delano, Rico said, releasing her. He approached me. I don't care. That man is a snake. He doesn't make conversation without an agenda. Unlike you? Rico's jaw tightened. I'm serious, Lena. These people, they'll test you, push boundaries, try to find weaknesses. You need to be smarter. Maybe if you'd bothered to prepare me instead of keeping me locked away like a dirty secret. You're not a secret. You're my wife. He stepped closer, voice dropping. And that means you're a target. Every person in that room is watching, judging, calculating how to use you against me. So smile, play the role, and keep your guard up. Is that what this is? A role? What did you think it was? Lena laughed, bitter and sharp. Right. Stupid question. She walked away before he could respond, back into the party where at least the lies were honest about being lies. The reception finally ended around midnight. Guests departed in expensive cars, leaving behind empty champagne flutes and air heavy with cigar smoke. Lena kicked off her heels in the foyer, her feet screaming in relief. That went well, Vera said, appearing from somewhere with her usual impeccable timing. You did beautifully. I'm a great actress. Should have gone to Hollywood. Get some rest. Tomorrow's the honeymoon. Lena froze halfway up the stairs. What? The honeymoon. Mr. Varela has planned a week in the Amalfi Coast. You leave at 10 a.m. Nobody told me about a honeymoon. It's in the contract. Page 14, Section 7. Public appearances as a married couple include appropriate travel. Of course it was in the contract. Everything was in the contract. Lena continued upstairs, her dress weighing her down like guilt. Her room, still her room, not theirs, looked exactly as she'd left it that morning. Untouched. Separate. She struggled with the dress zipper, finally gave up and just stood there, too tired to care. A knock interrupted her surrender. Come in. Rico entered, still in his suit but with his tie loosened. He looked tired too, the careful control slipping just enough to show the human underneath. Need help? He asked, gesturing to the dress. I've got it. You clearly don't. He moved behind her, found the hidden zipper. His fingers brushed her spine as he pulled it down, the dress loosening around her shoulders. There. Thanks. He didn't move away immediately. They stood like that, him behind her, close enough that she could feel his breath on her neck. You did well today, he said quietly. My mother was right. You're stronger than you look. Is that supposed to be a compliment? It's an observation. He stepped back, creating distance. About tomorrow, the trip to Italy. We'll have separate rooms. This is for appearances only. Obviously. I don't expect anything from you beyond what we agreed to. Lena turned to face him, holding the dress against her chest. What exactly did we agree to, Rico? Because from where I'm standing, I signed away my life and got a husband who can barely stand to touch me. Something flickered across his face. I touch you plenty in public. Public, right, because nothing about this is real. You knew that going in. Knowing something and living it are different. Lena moved to the closet, grabbed a robe. You can leave now. Mission accomplished. We're married. Your image is secure. I'll play dress up for your business friends and keep my mouth shut like a good little wife. Lena, just go, Rico. I'm tired. He stood there a moment longer, something unreadable in his expression, then nodded once and left. The door closed with a soft click that sounded too much like finality. Lena peeled off the wedding dress, left it in a puddle of white silk on the floor, and stood under a shower hot enough to hurt. She scrubbed at her skin until it turned red, trying to wash away the feeling of being owned. It didn't work. That night she fell asleep in her separate room in her separate bed, wearing her wedding ring and wondering if this was what drowning felt like. The flight to Italy left from a private airfield. Of course Rico had a private plane. Of course it was sleek and expensive with leather seats and a flight attendant who served breakfast like they were at a five-star restaurant. Lena sat across from her husband, picking at eggs she couldn't taste, and watched the ground disappear beneath them. How long is the flight? She asked. 9 hours. There's a bedroom in the back if you want to sleep. I'm fine here. Rico returned to his laptop, typing away at whatever deals kept his empire running. Lena pulled out a book she'd grabbed from the house library, but the words swam on the page. She gave up after 3 chapters of retaining nothing. Can I ask you something? She said. Rico looked up. Go ahead. Why me? Really? You said I was genuine, but there had to be 1,000 other desperate people you could have used. He was quiet for a long moment, considering. You want the truth? I signed my life away for it. Seems like I've earned it. I saw you at the hospital 4 weeks ago. I was visiting a business associate who'd been shot. Long story, not important. You were in the cafeteria, asleep at a table with medical bills spread out in front of you. You looked. He paused, searching for words. Defeated. But when you woke up, you gathered those bills, straightened your shoulders, and walked back upstairs like you were going into battle. Lena stared at him. You've been watching me for a month? I've been evaluating you. There's a difference. That's creepy. That's thorough. Rico closed his laptop. Everyone else I considered was performing, trying to be what they thought I wanted. You were just trying to survive. That kind of authentic desperation, it can't be faked. And I needed someone who wouldn't fall apart when things got difficult. Things are already difficult. They'll get worse before they get better. The statement hung between them, ominous and unelaborated. Lena wanted to push, demand details, but the exhaustion caught up with her. She reclined her seat, closed her eyes, and drifted into uneasy sleep somewhere over the Atlantic. She woke to Rico shaking her shoulder gently. We're landing in 20 minutes. The Amalfi Coast spread beneath them like a postcard, cliffs and turquoise water and buildings stacked like children's blocks. They landed at a small airport and transferred immediately to a car that drove them along winding coastal roads to a villa that clung to a cliff face like it was holding on for dear life. This is yours? Lena asked, climbing out of the car. My family's. My grandfather built it 70 years ago. Rico grabbed their bags. Well, had someone else grab their bags. Come on. The villa was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Stone walls, tile floors, windows that opened to endless ocean views. It smelled like lemons and salt air. A woman who had to be in her 70s greeted them at the door, pulling Rico into a hug while speaking rapid Italian. He responded in kind, then switched to English. Lena, this is Signora Bianca. She takes care of the property. And this boy when he's here, Bianca said in heavily accented English. She turned to Lena, examining her with sharp eyes that reminded Lena of Sophia's scrutiny. So you're the one who finally caught him. Must be something special. She is, Rico said before Lena could respond. His hand found the small of her back. Is everything ready? Of course. The master suite, fresh flowers, wine in the refrigerator. I made your favorite, pasta al limone for dinner. Bianca winked at Lena. Make sure he eats. He forgets when he's working. She bustled away, leaving them in the foyer. Rico's hand was still on Lena's back. Master suite? She said quietly. It's a 2-bedroom suite. You'll have privacy. He picked up her bags. Come on, I'll show you. The suite took up the entire upper floor. 2 bedrooms connected by a shared living space, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sea, a balcony big enough to host a party. It was stunning and intimate and entirely too much. Your room, Rico set her bags in the left bedroom. Mine's across the way. We share the common area, but that's it. Okay. Dinner's at 7. Dress casual. We're not going anywhere. He paused at the door. And Lena? Try to relax. Even prisoners get time off for good behavior. He left before she could throw something at him. Lena unpacked slowly, hanging clothes in a closet that smelled like cedar, placing her toiletries in a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. Through the windows, the Mediterranean sparkled in afternoon sun. It was paradise. It was torture. She spent the next hour on the balcony, watching fishing boats cut through blue water, trying to remember why she'd agreed to this. Her father's face, pale and diminished in a hospital bed. That was why. That was always why. At 7, she found Rico in the common area, changed into jeans and a white linen shirt that made him look less like a crime lord and more like a normal person on vacation. The transformation was disorienting. Bianca left dinner, he said, gesturing to the table laden with food. She also left us alone, so we don't have to perform for anyone. They ate in silence, broken only by the sound of forks on plates and waves crashing below. The pasta was incredible, bright with lemon, rich with butter, perfectly cooked. Lena found herself actually hungry for the first time in days. This is amazing, she said. Bianca's been making it since I was a kid. It's the only thing that tastes like home. Rico poured wine into both their glasses. My grandfather used to say that if you could make good pasta, you could survive anything. Life's problems were just ingredients that needed the right preparation. Your grandfather sounds wise. He was a bastard who ran protection rackets and terrorized half of Naples. Rico's smile was thin. But he made excellent pasta, so I guess it balanced out. Lena sipped her wine, processing that. So this, what you do? It's a family business? More like a family curse. My grandfather built it. My father expanded it, and I inherited it whether I wanted to or not. He stared at his glass. You think I woke up one day and decided to be feared? This life chose me before I was old enough to understand what it meant. You could have left, done something else. Could I? Rico looked at her directly. When your father needed you, did you have a choice? Or did you do what had to be done because the alternative was unthinkable? The question landed like a punch. Lena set down her fork. That's different. Is it? We both made deals we couldn't walk away from. We both sacrificed what we wanted for what we needed. He refilled her wine glass. At least be honest about that. They finished dinner without speaking, the weight of mutual recognition sitting heavy between them. After, Rico disappeared into his room while Lena stood on the balcony watching stars appear over dark water. The night was warm, the breeze carrying salt and jasmine. It should have been romantic. Instead, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, waiting to see if she'd jump or be pushed. The next morning, Rico knocked on her door at 8. Get dressed. I want to show you something. They drove along the coast in a convertible that belonged in movies, wind whipping Lena's hair into knots she'd regret later. Rico navigated the narrow roads with confidence, one hand on the wheel, the other resting casually on the gear shift. He wore sunglasses that hid his eyes, making him unreadable again. They stopped in a small town built into the cliffside. Colorful buildings, narrow streets, locals who greeted Rico like he was family. He led her through a maze of alleyways to a church so small it was easy to miss. This is where my parents got married, he said, pushing open the heavy wooden door, and their parents before them. 4 generations of Varellas making bad decisions in the same building. Inside was cool and dim, smell of incense and old stone. Lena's footsteps echoed as she walked down the aisle. It was nothing like the elaborate ceremony at Rico's estate. This was simple, honest, real. Why are you showing me this? Rico stood near the altar, hands in his pockets. Because I want you to understand something. What we did, the ceremony, the contract, all of it, that wasn't a marriage. That was a business arrangement with paperwork. I know that. But this? He gestured around the small church. This is what marriage is supposed to be. 2 people choosing each other, not because they have to, because they want to. Lena's chest tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know the difference. Because someday when this contract expires, you'll find someone who brings you here for the right reasons. Rico's voice was quiet, almost gentle. And you shouldn't settle for less just because you settled for me first. The statement hung in the dusty air between them, too honest and too much. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to be angry, but she couldn't find the energy. Instead, she just looked at him, really looked, and saw something she hadn't expected. Regret, maybe. Or guilt. Some crack in the armor wide enough to glimpse the human underneath. You're more complicated than I thought, she said finally. Most monsters are. They left the church and spent the day exploring the town. Rico bought her lunch at a trattoria where everyone knew his name, took her to a bookshop run by a woman who'd apparently changed his diapers as a baby, showed her viewpoints where the ocean stretched forever. He was different here, looser, less guarded. He laughed at jokes the old men made, helped a woman carry groceries up steep stairs, stopped to pet a stray cat that wound between his legs. You like it here, Lena observed as they sat on a stone wall eating gelato in the late afternoon sun. It's the only place I can be normal. Rico watched a group of kids playing soccer in a tiny plaza. Back home, I'm always performing, always watching my back. Here, he shrugged. Here I'm just Sophia's kid who made good and comes back when he can. Do they know what you really do? They know enough. They don't care. In Italy, family business is family business. You don't ask questions. He finished his gelato, tossed the cup in a bin. Come on, one more stop. The cemetery sat on a hillside overlooking the sea, marble headstones gleaming white in the fading light. Rico led her to a plot near the back where 3 graves sat together. My grandfather, my grandmother, my father. He crouched down, brushed leaves off the center stone. My mother comes twice a year to visit, brings flowers, talks to them like they can hear her. I think it's the only time she cries. Where's your father buried? I thought, he died when I was 17, car accident. At least that's what the official report said. Rico stood, dusting off his hands. Truth is, he was killed. Rival family. They made it look like an accident to avoid a war. My mother knew, I knew, but we couldn't prove it, and starting a war would have destroyed everything my grandfather built. I'm sorry. Don't be. He wasn't a good man. Loved my mother, loved me in his own way, but he hurt a lot of people. Probably deserved what he got. Rico's voice was matter-of-fact, but his jaw was tight. I took over that day. 17 years old, still in school, suddenly responsible for an empire built on blood. So when you ask why I am the way I am, that's why. I grew up too fast and too hard, and some things don't bounce back from that. Lena moved closer, standing beside him. She didn't touch him, didn't offer comfort, just stood there sharing the weight of confession. Is that why you don't want real? Because you don't think you deserve it? Rico turned to look at her. For a moment, the mask slipped completely. She saw exhaustion in his eyes, and loneliness, and something that looked like hunger. I don't want real because real people get hurt. They become targets. They get used as leverage. He stepped back, rebuilding walls as quickly as they'd crumbled. Our arrangement protects you, keeps you at arm's length, where it's safer. That's bullshit, and you know it. I'm already a target. I became one the second I signed that contract. Maybe. But at least you're a target I can control. The statement should have made her angry. Instead, it just made her sad. She looked at this man who'd bought her like property, who kept everyone at a distance, who was so convinced that love was a liability that he'd contractually eliminated it from his life. You're going to die alone, she said quietly. Probably. Doesn't that scare you? Rico looked out at the darkening sea. Less than the alternative. They drove back to the villa in silence, the easy atmosphere from earlier gone. Dinner was tense, conversation minimal. Lena went to bed early, lay awake listening to the ocean, and tried not to think about the look in Rico's eyes at the cemetery. The rest of the week passed in a strange rhythm. They'd breakfast together, spend days exploring or relaxing by the villa's infinity pool, eat dinners that Bianca prepared with love and left for them to share. They talked about books, movies, her degree in art history that she'd loved and abandoned, about his brief attempt at normal life. Going to university for 2 semesters before his father's death pulled him back. They found common ground in unexpected places. Both loved old films. Both hated sweet wine. Both had read the same obscure biography of a Renaissance painter and had opinions about the author's interpretations. It was easy. Too easy. Lena found herself forgetting, for hours at a time, that this was an arrangement. That the man lounging beside the pool, arguing passionately about whether Caravaggio's violence made him a better artist or just a troubled person, was the same man who'd bought her. On the last night, they ate dinner on the balcony under a sky full of stars. Rico had opened an expensive wine, the kind he said his grandfather had hidden during the war and never lived to drink. To survival, he said, raising his glass. That's a depressing toast. It's an honest one. They clinked glasses. The wine tasted like history and regret. When we get back, Rico said, things will be different. More public appearances. Business dinners. You'll meet people who'll smile while calculating how to use you. You need to be ready. I'm ready. Are you? He set down his glass. Because once we're back in that world, I can't protect you from everything. You'll have to be smart, careful, ruthless when necessary. You're describing yourself. I'm describing survival in my world. Your world now. Lena stood, moved to the railing. Below, waves crashed against rocks with relentless rhythm. You know what's funny? I keep waiting to hate you. I should hate you. You blackmailed me, bought me, treat me like an asset. But this week, she shook her head. I keep seeing glimpses of who you might have been. If circumstances were different, if you'd been allowed to be normal. Rico came to stand beside her, close enough that she felt his warmth in the cool night air. That person doesn't exist. Never did. I don't believe that. Believe what you want. Won't change reality. He went inside, leaving her alone with the stars and the growing certainty that she was in much deeper trouble than a contract could explain. The flight home felt shorter. They landed at night, the city lights spreading like spilled jewels below them. The car ride to the estate was quiet. When they pulled through the gates, Lena felt the weight of it settle back onto her shoulders. The villa had been a pause, an intermission. Now the real performance resumed. Tomorrow night, Rico said as they climbed the stairs. Dinner party, 20 guests, business associates and their wives. You'll need to make an impression. What kind of impression? The kind that says you're not weak, that you belong at my side. He stopped at her door. Wear something that makes a statement. What statement? Property of Rico Varela? His jaw tightened. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? They stared at each other, the tension from the week crystallizing into something sharp. Rico moved closer, backing her against the door. His hand came up, fingers brushing her jaw. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. For a moment, she thought she might let him. Instead, he stepped back. Good night, Lena. He walked away, disappearing into his wing of the house, leaving her standing in the hallway with her heart racing and absolutely no idea what was happening anymore. Lena spent the next morning avoiding Rico entirely. She had breakfast in her room, claimed a headache when Vera came to discuss the evening's arrangements, and stayed hidden until noon when hunger forced her downstairs. The house felt different now, less like a prison, more like a stage where she didn't know her lines yet. She found Rico in his office, door slightly ajar. He was on the phone, speaking in Italian with an edge to his voice that made her pause. She couldn't understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Threat wrapped in civility. He noticed her in the doorway, held up a finger. 1 minute. Lena leaned against the frame, waiting. No, Matteo, you listen to me. Rico switched to English mid-sentence, maybe for her benefit. I don't care about his excuses. The shipment was light by 30%. Either he explains where my product went, or I explain to his family why he's not coming home. You have 48 hours. He ended the call, set the phone down deliberately. Need something? Just wondering if that's how you talk to everyone who disappoints you. Only the ones stupid enough to steal from me. Rico leaned back in his chair, studying her. Sleep well? Like a rock chained to the bottom of the ocean. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Fitting metaphor. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. Sit. We need to talk about tonight. Lena sat, trying not to feel like she was back in his office that first day, signing her life away. Vera already gave me the rundown. Smile, be charming, don't embarrass you. It's more complicated than that. Rico pulled out a folder, spread photographs across the desk. Men and women in expensive clothes at various events. These are the people who will be here tonight. I need you to understand what you're walking into. He tapped the first photo. A man in his 50s with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Gregory Chen owns half the commercial real estate in Chinatown, also runs an underground gambling operation that pulls in 7 figures monthly. His wife, Patricia, collects art and gossip in equal measure. She'll ask you invasive questions disguised as friendly interest. Next photo. A younger couple, both attractive in a manufactured way. David and Sarah Reeves, tech money, new to the scene, trying to legitimize their crypto empire by associating with established names. David's ambitious, Sarah's smarter than she pretends to be. Don't underestimate either of them. Rico continued through the photos, giving her a crash course in his world. Loan sharks and shipping magnates, developers with connections to politicians, a restaurant owner who laundered money through a chain of upscale bistros. Every person had 2 faces, the public one and the truth underneath. You're telling me this because you think I can't handle it, Lena said when he finished. I'm telling you this because I need you to survive it. Rico gathered the photos. These people will test you. They'll probe for weakness, for leverage. You need to give them nothing. Except the perfect wife performance. Especially that. He stood, came around the desk. Tonight, you're not Lena who used to wait tables and worry about rent. You're Mrs. Rico Varela. That name carries weight. Use it. How? By not apologizing for taking up space. By meeting their questions with questions of your own. By remembering that you have something they don't. What's that? Me. Rico's voice dropped lower. They're all terrified of me. By extension, they need to fear you too. The statement should have felt empowering. Instead, it just felt heavy. Lena stood, faced him across the minimal space between them. And what happens when someone's not afraid? When they decide to test whether I'm actually dangerous or just wearing your name like borrowed clothes? Then you show them why you're still standing. Rico reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was gentle, almost tender. You survived poverty, watched your father dying, and made a deal with someone you should have run from. You're tougher than you think. His hand lingered against her cheek. Lena's breath caught, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. For a moment, the distance between them felt like nothing, like they were back on that balcony in Italy, wine warm and honest. Then Rico stepped back, the moment shattering like glass. Vera will help you get ready. Wear the red dress. It's in your closet. I didn't bring a red dress. I know. I had it delivered this morning. He returned to his desk, picked up his phone. Conversation over. Dismissed. Lena left before she could say something she'd regret. Or worse, something true. The red dress was a problem. It fit perfectly, which was annoying because it meant Rico had studied her body closely enough to guess her measurements. It was elegant without being conservative, expensive without being showy. The kind of dress that made a statement in lowercase letters. Dangerous because it didn't try too hard. Vera arrived at 6 to supervise hair and makeup. The same team from the wedding descended, transforming Lena into someone camera-ready. Hair swept up, makeup that emphasized her eyes, jewelry that probably cost more than her college tuition. When they finished, Lena barely recognized herself. "Perfect," Vera said, circling her with critical assessment. "You look like you belong." "I look like I'm playing dress-up in someone else's life." "Same thing." Vera adjusted the necklace, a simple pendant that probably had 3 generations of Varela history. "Remember what I told you before. Mr. Varela keeps his word, but so do his enemies. Tonight, everyone you meet is cataloging information. What you say, how you react, who you pay attention to, give them nothing useful." "You sound like Rico." "I've worked for him long enough to know how this world operates." Vera met her eyes in the mirror. "You're doing better than I expected, Lena. Most people would have crumbled by now, but you're still standing. That counts for something." It was the closest thing to a compliment Vera had ever given her. Lena didn't know whether to feel proud or concerned that the bar was set at still standing. Guests started arriving at 7:30. Lena stood beside Rico in the foyer, his hand resting possessively on her lower back as they greeted each arrival. The performance had begun, and she'd learned enough in the past weeks to play her part. Smile, handshake, air kiss. "Thank you for coming. So wonderful to meet you. Yes, we're very happy." Gregory Chen arrived first with Patricia, who looked Lena over with the precision of a jeweler appraising diamonds. "So this is the woman who finally tamed Rico Varela. You must be quite something." "Or quite desperate," Lena replied with a smile that didn't falter. "But I prefer to think of it as being in the right place at the right time." Patricia's eyebrows rose slightly. Beside her, Rico's hand tightened on Lena's back. Approval or warning, she couldn't tell. "Honest. I like that." Patricia leaned in conspiratorially. "Most women in your position would be performing their hearts out. You actually seem like a real person." "I try." The Reeves arrived next, Sarah in a dress that probably required engineering degrees to construct. She hugged Lena like they were old friends, her perfume expensive and overwhelming. "I'm so glad to finally meet you. Rico's been keeping you locked away like a secret." "Not locked away, just adjusting to married life." Lena kept her smile in place. "I'm sure you understand. Everything happens fast in the beginning." "Oh, absolutely." Sarah's eyes flickered to Rico, then back. "David and I got married after knowing each other 6 weeks. When you know, right?" "Right." More guests filtered in. Marcus Delano, who Rico had warned her about at the wedding, arrived with a woman young enough to be his daughter, but clearly wasn't. A city councilman whose name Lena immediately forgot, but whose handshake lingered too long. A couple who owned a shipping company and watched everything with hawk eyes. Each person bringing their own agenda, their own calculations. Dinner was served in the formal dining room, a table that could seat 30 but tonight held 20. Lena sat at Rico's right hand, playing hostess in a home she didn't feel like hers. The conversation flowed around her, business talk disguised as social chatter. Development deals and shipping routes, investments and opportunities. She listened more than she spoke, filing away information without understanding most of it. Across the table, Patricia Chen kept watching her with obvious interest. Finally, during the second course, she leaned forward. "So Lena, art history degree, correct? What made you choose that?" It was a trap. Lena could feel it. Admitting to an impractical degree, to youthful idealism, would mark her as naive. But lying would be worse. "I loved it, still do. The Renaissance period especially. All that violence and beauty happening simultaneously, artists painting Madonnas while the Medicis were murdering their rivals. Seemed honest somehow." "Honest?" Patricia sipped her wine. "That's an interesting word choice." More honest than pretending beauty exists without blood. Lena met the older woman's eyes. Every great work of art in history was commissioned by someone with dirty hands. At least they didn't pretend otherwise. Silence spread like spilled water. Then Rico laughed, low and genuine. She has a point. Gregory Chen raised his glass. To honest assessments and dirty hands, may we all commission beautiful things. The table echoed the toast, tension breaking. Lena felt Rico's hand find hers under the table, squeeze once. She'd passed some tests she hadn't known she was taking. After dinner, the party moved to the terrace. Evening had cooled into night, the city lights spreading below them like grounded stars. Lena accepted champagne from a server, tried to look natural while wearing a dress that cost more than her monthly rent used to be. Sarah Reeves materialized at her elbow. That was impressive in there. Patricia Chen doesn't usually warm up to people so quickly. I just told the truth. Dangerous habit in this crowd. Sarah studied her over her glass. Can I give you some advice? Wife to wife? Sure. Everyone here is going to try to use you. Some will be subtle about it, others less so. They'll want information about Rico, about his business, about vulnerabilities they can exploit. Sarah's voice dropped lower. Don't trust anyone. Not the women who seem friendly, not the men who seem harmless. Everyone has an angle. Including you? Sarah smiled, sharp and knowing. Especially me. I'm telling you this because I remember being new to this world. Terrified. David threw me into the deep end and expected me to swim. I nearly drowned before I figured out the rules. What are the rules? Never show fear. Never admit you don't understand something. Never, ever let them see you as separate from your husband. You're not Lena. You're Rico's wife. That's your armor and your weapon. Sarah glanced across the terrace where Rico stood talking with Gregory and Marcus. He's protective of you. That's good. But it also makes you valuable to his enemies. Be careful. She drifted away before Lena could respond, leaving behind advice that felt like a warning. The party continued late. Lena worked the room the way Rico had taught her, making small talk that meant nothing and revealed less. She learned that Patricia collected Baroque paintings and had strong opinions about restoration techniques, that the councilman was angling for Rico's support in an upcoming election, that Marcus Delano kept watching her when he thought she wasn't looking, calculating something she couldn't decipher. Around midnight, she escaped to the garden for air. The noise from the party faded to a distant hum. She kicked off her heels, felt grass cool and real beneath her feet. Hiding? Lena turned. Rico stood at the edge of the terrace, jacket discarded, tie loosened. He looked tired in a way she hadn't seen before. Taking a break. There's a difference. Not really. He came down the steps, joined her on the lawn. You did well tonight. Better than well. Patricia Chen asked me where I'd been hiding you. Said you were too smart to be just a pretty face. High praise from someone who's probably had people killed. Definitely has. Rico tilted his head back, looking at the sky. Light pollution made the stars weak, barely visible. This is what the rest of our life looks like. Parties like this, people like that. Can you handle it? I'm still here, aren't I? Being here and handling it are different things. He looked at her directly. You could break. Decide it's too much. Walk away. The contract says, forget the contract. Rico's voice was rough with something Lena couldn't name. I'm asking you human to human, can you survive this? Because if you can't, tell me now. I'll find another way to handle your father's care. You can leave. Lena stared at him, trying to understand what was happening. This wasn't the Rico who'd bought her, who kept everything transactional and cold. This was the man from the cemetery in Italy, masks dropped, asking a question that mattered. Why do you care? Because I'm not a complete monster, despite appearances. And because... He stopped, jaw working. You're different. The others I considered, they would have played this role perfectly, said exactly what I wanted to hear. You argue with me, push back, act like you're actually alive instead of just performing. Maybe I'm just bad at performing. Or maybe you're the only real thing in my life right now. Rico ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. This wasn't supposed to happen. You were supposed to be a solution to a problem. Clean, simple, contractual. But you're making it complicated. How? By making me care whether you survive this or not. The admission hung between them, raw and unintended. Lena's heart was doing that complicated thing again, racing and stuttering simultaneously. She should have been angry, should have thrown his concern back in his face. Instead, she just felt tired. "I'm not going anywhere," she said quietly. "I made a deal. I keep my word." "Even if it destroys you?" Even then, she met his eyes. "But for what it's worth, I think you care more than you admit. About a lot of things. You just hide it better than most people." Rico laughed, bitter and short. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I?" Lena stepped closer. "You could have chosen anyone, but you chose someone genuine because you're sick of fake. You brought me to that church in Italy to show me what real looks like, because part of you still remembers wanting it. You're protecting me because you know what this world does to people, and somewhere under all the armor, you don't want to be responsible for breaking someone else. You're giving me too much credit. Maybe. Or maybe you're just scared that if you admit to being human, someone will use it against you." She picked up her shoes. "I'm going to bed. Thanks for the party. It was terrifying and educational in equal measure." She walked past him, back toward the house. His voice stopped her at the terrace steps. "Lena." She turned. Rico stood in the garden, hands in his pockets, looking lost in a way that broke something in her chest. "I am scared. You're right about that. People I care about become targets, liabilities. I've watched it happen too many times." "So you just don't care about anyone? That's your solution?" "It's worked so far." "Has it?" Lena shook her head. "Looks pretty lonely from where I'm standing." She left him there with the weak stars and his careful distance, went upstairs to her separate room in their shared house, and tried not to think about the fact that she was starting to care about a man who'd made not caring into an art form. The remaining party guests trickled out over the next hour. Lena heard them leaving, heard Rico's voice in the foyer playing the gracious host. She changed into pajamas, washed off makeup that felt like a mask, and was brushing her teeth when someone knocked. "Come in." Rico entered, still in his dress shirt but with the sleeves rolled up. He looked like he'd been drinking, though his eyes were clear. "Just wanted to say thank you for tonight. You handled it better than I expected. Expectations seem pretty low in your world." "They are." He leaned against the doorframe. "Marcus asked about you. Wanted to know where you came from, what your story was. I told him to mind his business." "What's his deal anyway? He gives me bad vibes." "Trust that instinct. Marcus is useful, but dangerous. He's been angling for more power in the organization, thinks he deserves a bigger piece." Rico's expression darkened. "He's also been making moves I don't like, meeting with people who should be off limits." "You think he's a problem?" "I think he's a problem waiting to happen." Rico pushed off the doorframe. "But that's my concern, not yours. You just stay away from him." "Yes, sir," Lena mock saluted. Rico's lips twitched, almost a smile. "You're a pain in my ass, you know that?" "I try my best." He stood there a moment longer, something unspoken hovering in the air between them. Then he nodded once and left, pulling the door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded too much like possibility. Lena lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and admitted to herself what she'd been avoiding for weeks. She was falling for her husband, the man who'd bought her, the man who kept walls high enough to block out the sun, the man who was absolutely, completely wrong for her in every possible way. It was the stupidest thing she could have done, and she was doing it anyway. The next few weeks fell into a routine that felt almost normal. Rico worked long hours, meetings, and phone calls in Italian that Lena didn't try to understand. She visited her father 3 times a week, watched him grow stronger with each visit, lied about how happy she was. She had lunch with Patricia Chen twice, discovering the woman was actually fascinating beneath the society veneer. She attended 2 more dinner parties and a charity gala, where she wore a dress that made her feel like a stranger and smiled until her face hurt. And slowly, carefully, she and Rico circled each other like boxers trying to figure out the other's weak spots. They'd have dinner together most nights. Sometimes they talked, really talked, about things that mattered. Books they'd read, places they wanted to see. The fact that they both thought coffee was better without sugar and anyone who said otherwise was wrong. Other nights they ate in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down like atmospheric pressure. He still kept his distance physically. No accidental touches, no lingering glances. If anything, he seemed more careful than before, Like proximity might shatter whatever fragile peace they'd established. It was driving Lena crazy. One night, 3 weeks after the dinner party, she found him in his office at 2 a.m. She'd been unable to sleep, had gone down for water, seen his light on. He sat behind his desk, glass of scotch in hand, staring at something on his computer screen. Working late? Rico looked up, surprised. Can't sleep? Apparently it's contagious. Lena came into the office, poured herself scotch from the decanter without asking. What's got you up? Just reviewing some contracts? He closed the laptop. Nothing interesting. You're a terrible liar when you're tired. Fine. Marcus' situation is escalating. He's been sloppy, leaving trails. Either he's getting stupider or he wants me to know he's making moves. Rico swirled his drink. I need to handle it soon, before it becomes a bigger problem. Handle it how? You don't want to know. Maybe I do. Lena sat in the chair across from him. I'm part of this world now, right? Might as well understand how it actually works. Rico studied her for a long moment. Then he sighed, refilled his glass. Marcus has been skimming. Small amounts, nothing that would show up immediately, but over 6 months, it adds up to almost 2 million. He's also been in contact with the Constantine family. Should that name mean something to me? They're our primary competition. Russian organization, very traditional, very violent. We have an understanding. They stay in their territory. We stay in ours. If Marcus is talking to them, he's either planning to jump ship or he's setting up something worse. Like what? Like selling information about our operations, routes, contacts, vulnerabilities. Rico's voice was flat, emotionless. That kind of betrayal usually ends one way. Lena's stomach dropped. You're going to kill him. I'm going to handle the situation appropriately. He met her eyes. This is what I meant about dirty hands, Lena. Every beautiful thing is built on blood. You said so yourself. I was talking about Renaissance art, not actual murder. Same principle, just more honest about the cost. Rico stood, came around the desk. You can't be part of this world and keep your hands clean. Eventually you have to choose survival or morality. That's a false choice, is it? He was close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with scotch and exhaustion. You made your choice the day you signed that contract. You chose your father's life over your principles. We all make compromises. Some are just bloodier than others. I didn't choose murder. No. You just chose to benefit from what murder provides. Protection, security, the money that's paying for your father's care. Rico's voice was soft but merciless. You can hate me for what I do, but don't pretend you're not complicit. The words hit like a slap. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to draw a line between them. But he was right. She'd known what Rico was when she signed, had made peace with it because the alternative was watching her father die. She didn't get to claim moral high ground from inside the castle his violence had built. I don't hate you, she said finally. You should. Probably. She finished her scotch, set the glass down. But I don't. I don't know what I feel about you, but it's not hate. Rico's expression shifted. Something hungry flickered in his eyes before he buried it. You should go to bed. Should I? Lena didn't move. Or are you just trying to maintain your careful distance? Lena, why won't you touch me? The question came out raw. Not for show, not in public, but here, when it's just us, you act like I'm made of glass. Because if I start, I won't stop. Rico's voice was rough. And you deserve better than being something I take because I can. You deserve someone who chose you, who wanted you, not someone who bought you like property. What if I want you anyway? The admission hung in the air between them, dangerous and true. Rico stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You don't know what you're saying. I'm saying that somewhere between the contract and now, things changed. At least for me. Maybe that makes me stupid. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome or whatever psychological term explains why I'm attracted to someone I should run from. Lena stood, faced him across minimal space. But I'm tired of pretending this is just business. Tired of separate rooms and careful distance. Tired of... Rico kissed her. It wasn't gentle. His hand tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, his other arm wrapping around her waist like he was trying to absorb her entirely. Lena gasped against his mouth, surprise giving way to response. She kissed him back, weeks of tension pouring into contact. He tasted like scotch and suppressed want. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Rico pressed his forehead against hers. This is a mistake. Probably. You're going to regret this. Maybe. Lena's fingers curled into his shirt. But I'm making it anyway. He kissed her again, softer this time. When he pulled back, his expression was conflicted. Not like this. Not when we're both exhausted and I'm about to do something you'll hate me for? The Marcus thing? Among others. Rico stepped back, creating space. Go to bed, Lena. We'll talk about this when you've had time to think clearly. I am thinking clearly. No, you're not. You're caught up in whatever this is between us. Give it a few days. See if you still feel the same when you remember who I actually am. He turned away, back to his desk. Conversation over. Dismissed. Lena left, frustration and confusion warring in her chest. She climbed the stairs to her room, touched her lips where she could still feel him, and tried to figure out when exactly she'd lost control of this situation. The answer was probably that first day, when she'd walked into his office and signed a contract with a man whose eyes held more danger than promise. She'd been losing control ever since. The only difference was now she was doing it willingly. Sleep didn't come. She lay in the dark, replaying the kiss, trying to understand what it meant, if it meant anything at all beyond impulse and proximity. Dawn was breaking when she finally drifted off, her dreams full of blood and beauty and a man who kept everyone at arm's length except, apparently, her. When Lena woke, sunlight was already harsh through the windows. She checked her phone. Nearly 11. She'd slept through breakfast, through the morning, through whatever normalcy she might have salvaged after last night's confession and that kiss that still felt burned into her skin. She showered quickly, threw on jeans and a sweater, and went downstairs expecting to find Rico already gone. Instead, he sat at the kitchen island, coffee in hand, looking like he hadn't slept at all. His shirt was wrinkled, hair uncombed, the careful control he usually wore like armor conspicuously absent. Morning, Lena said carefully. Rico looked up, his expression unreadable. We need to talk. That's never a good opening line. Sit down, please. Lena poured herself coffee, sat across from him. The silence stretched uncomfortable and thick. About last night, Rico started, then stopped. Tried again. I shouldn't have kissed you. I kissed you back. I know, that's the problem. He rubbed his face, exhausted. Lena, I meant what I said. You deserve better than this, better than me, and I can't give you what you want. You don't know what I want. Yes, I do. You want this to be real. You want the contract to mean something beyond legal obligation. You want, he gestured helplessly. You want a fairy tale, a husband who loves you, a marriage that's actually a marriage. And you can't give me that. No. Rico's voice was firm. I can't. I won't. Because the moment I let you in completely, the moment I care about you the way you want me to care, you become a target. Every enemy I have will see you as leverage. Your life becomes exponentially more dangerous. It's already dangerous. Not like it would be. Right now, you're an arrangement, a business decision. If they think you matter to me, really matter, they'll use that. They'll hurt you to hurt me. Rico stood, paced to the window. I've seen it happen. I watched my father's enemies take people he loved and destroy them just to prove they could. I won't do that to you. Lena set down her coffee cup with deliberate precision. So what was last night? A moment of weakness you're already regretting? Yes, no, I don't know. Rico turned to face her. I don't regret kissing you. I regret that I want to do it again. I regret that keeping you at arm's length is getting harder. I regret that you're worming your way past defenses I spent 20 years building. That sounds like a you problem. It's an us problem. His voice dropped. Because if we do this, if we cross that line and make this real, there's no going back. You'll be in deeper than you ever agreed to. And when things go bad, and they will go bad, you won't be able to walk away clean. I'm already not clean. You said so yourself last night. Lena stood, moved closer. I made my choice. I chose survival. I chose my father. I chose this world, however indirectly. So stop trying to protect me from consequences I already accepted. You didn't accept this. Maybe not, but I'm accepting it now. She reached out, took his hand. I'm not asking for love. I'm not asking for forever. I'm just asking you to stop treating me like I'm a stranger you're forced to tolerate. Rico looked at their joined hands, something complicated crossing his face. What if I can't give you more than that? What if this is all I have? Then that's what we work with. He pulled her closer, slow and deliberate, giving her time to change her mind. When she didn't, he kissed her again. Different from last night. Less desperate, more intentional. Like he was making a decision he couldn't unmake. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. This is still a mistake. Probably the biggest one I've made yet. That's saying something, considering you married me. Lena laughed despite everything. Fair point. They stood like that for a long moment, neither moving. Then Rico's phone shattered the quiet. He pulled back, checked the screen, and his expression shifted. Back to business. Back to the man who ran an empire built on blood. I have to go. Something's come up. The Marcus thing? Among others. Rico grabbed his jacket from the back of a chair. Stay here today. Don't go out. I'll have security outside. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. He kissed her forehead, quick and distracted. I'll be back tonight. We'll finish this conversation then. He was gone before she could argue, leaving Lena alone in a too big house with too many questions and a kiss still warm on her lips. The day dragged. Lena tried reading, gave up after rereading the same page 6 times. Tried watching television, couldn't focus. She ended up in the library, surrounded by books that probably cost more than cars, and attempted to distract herself with a biography of Caravaggio that she'd been meaning to finish. Around 3, Vera appeared with lunch on a tray. Mr. Varela called, said to make sure you eat. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. Vera set the tray down, studied Lena with those sharp eyes. Something's different. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Vera sat in the chair across from her. I've worked for Mr. Varela for 6 years. I've seen him with other women. He's always distant, controlled. But with you, she paused, choosing words carefully. He's making mistakes, getting distracted. That's dangerous in his line of work. Are you blaming me? I'm warning you. When he's distracted, he's vulnerable. And when he's vulnerable, people die. Sometimes the right people, sometimes not. Vera stood. He cares about you more than he should, more than is safe. That's a liability you need to understand. I didn't ask him to care about me. Doesn't matter. He does anyway. Vera moved to the door, paused. Be careful, Lena. This world doesn't forgive weakness. And right now, you're his. After she left, Lena couldn't eat. She stared at the food, at the expensive china and crystal, at the life she'd traded into. Vera was right. She'd become a liability, a weakness in Rico's armor. And in his world, weakness got exploited. Evening came without word from Rico. Lena tried his phone twice, got voicemail both times. She had dinner alone, went to bed early, and lay awake listening for sounds of his return. Around midnight, she heard voices downstairs. Male voices, tense and urgent. She crept to her door, opened it slightly. Can't be sure it was him. That was Rico, voice tight with anger. Who else would it be? An unfamiliar voice, thick accent. Marcus knew the route. He knew the timing. He's the only leak that makes sense. Then we handle it. Tonight. You're sure? I'm sure. Get everyone in position. We move at 2. Footsteps, then silence. Lena closed her door, heart racing. This was it. Whatever Rico had been planning with Marcus, it was happening now. And despite Vera's warnings, despite knowing she shouldn't care, she did. She was still awake at 2 when she heard cars leaving. Multiple vehicles, engines fading into distance. The house fell quiet. Empty. Lena got out of bed, went downstairs. The security guard who usually stood by the front door was gone. Everyone was gone. She shouldn't follow. Should stay in the house where it was safe, where she could maintain plausible deniability. But she'd stopped making smart decisions the day she signed that contract. Lena grabbed keys to one of the cars in the garage, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than most houses, and drove. She had no idea where she was going, just followed instinct and the vague memory of an address she'd seen on Rico's desk weeks ago. A warehouse district near the docks, the kind of place where bad things happened and nobody asked questions. She found the location by accident more than design. 3 black SUVs parked outside a building with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. She parked a block away, killed the engine, and sat there trying to decide if she'd completely lost her mind. The answer was yes, but she was here anyway. Lena approached on foot, staying in shadows. The warehouse door stood slightly ajar, light spilling out. She could hear voices inside, angry and overlapping. She got close enough to see through the gap. Rico stood in the center of what looked like an abandoned loading area. 4 men surrounded him. His men, she assumed, from their positioning and the way they deferred to him. And in front of Rico, zip-tied to a chair, was Marcus Delano. Blood dripped from his nose. His left eye was already swelling shut. "You stole from me." Rico's voice was calm, conversational. Somehow, that made it more terrifying. $2 million over 6 months. Did you think I wouldn't notice? "Rico, please." Marcus's voice shook. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You're very good at explanations. Very creative." Rico circled the chair like a predator. "What I want to know is what you told the Constantines. What information did you sell them?" "Nothing. I swear, I didn't." Rico hit him. Fast, brutal, no warning. Marcus's head snapped back, blood spraying. Lena flinched, her hand covering her mouth to stifle a gasp. "Don't lie to me. We have phone records. Meeting logs. You've been in contact with Victor Constantine for 3 months." Rico grabbed Marcus's hair, forced him to look up. "What did you tell him?" Just route information? Shipment schedules? Nothing critical?" "Nothing critical." Rico laughed, cold and hollow. "You gave him our distribution network, our entire East Coast operation, and you call that nothing critical?" "I needed the money. I have debts. Everyone has debts. Not everyone commits treason." Rico released him, stepped back. "You know what happens now. Please." "Rico, please. We've worked together for years. I've been loyal." "Until you weren't." Rico pulled a gun from his jacket, the kind of gun that appeared in movies and nightmares. "Did you tell them about Lena?" Marcus's eyes widened. "What? No, I wouldn't." "Did you tell them about my wife?" Rico's voice dropped to something lethal. "Because if the Constantines know about her, if they have any information at all, that's your death sentence right there." "I swear I never mentioned her. She wasn't part of—" "Good. That's the only reason you're still breathing." Rico chambered around, the sound obscenely loud in the empty warehouse. "You betrayed me. You endangered my organization. But more than that, you made yourself a liability, and I don't tolerate liabilities." "Rico, wait." The gunshot cracked through the air. Marcus slumped forward in the chair, blood pooling beneath him. Lena stumbled backward, her vision swimming. She'd known this was coming, had known what Rico was, but knowing and seeing were catastrophically different things. She ran, didn't think, just moved, back toward the car on legs that barely held her weight. She made it 3 blocks before she had to pull over and throw up. Her hand shook so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. This was who she'd married. This was the man she'd kissed. This was the person she'd convinced herself she cared about. A murderer, a killer. Someone who could execute a man and probably go home to sleep soundly after. Lena sat in the car for 20 minutes, trying to process what she'd witnessed, trying to reconcile the man who'd kissed her in his kitchen with the man who'd just put a bullet in someone's head without hesitation. They were the same person. That was the part her brain kept struggling with. Not different sides, not separate personas. The same man, capable of both tenderness and brutality. She drove back to the estate on autopilot, parked the car, went inside, climbed the stairs to her room. She showered with water hot enough to hurt, trying to scrub away the memory. It didn't work. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel with her skin raw and red, Rico stood in her bedroom doorway. "You followed me." It wasn't a question. Lena's throat closed. She couldn't speak. "I saw your car. Blocks away, but I saw it." Rico's expression was unreadable. "You watched." "Yes. And now you're terrified of me." "Yes." Rico nodded slowly, like she'd confirmed something he'd known all along. "This is what I tried to protect you from. This is why I kept my distance. Because this," he gestured at himself, "this is who I actually am. Not the man who takes you to Italy and kisses you in the kitchen. Not the man who has philosophical discussions about art. I'm the man who just killed someone for betraying me, and I'll do it again. And again. Because that's what survival looks like in my world." Lena found her voice. Did he deserve it? Does it matter? Yes? Rico was quiet for a long moment. He sold information that would have gotten 12 people killed. He was meeting with the Constantines tomorrow to finalize a deal that would have decimated our East Coast operations. He knew what he was doing, and he did it anyway. He paused. So yes, in my world, he deserved it. And in the real world? There is no real world. There's just this one. And in this one, you protect what's yours, or you lose everything. Rico moved into the room, stopped a few feet away. I'm sorry you saw that. I'm sorry you know what I'm capable of, but I'm not sorry I did it. I know. Lena tightened the towel around herself. That's what scares me. You're not a monster pretending to be human. You're a human who became a monster because you had to. And I don't know which is worse. Neither do I. Rico's voice was rough. You can leave. Right now. I'll arrange transport, set you up somewhere safe. Your father's care will continue. You'll have enough money to start over. The contract becomes void. You walk away clean. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. What matters is whether you can live with what you saw tonight. Whether you can look at me and not see that man in the warehouse. Rico met her eyes directly. Because if you stay, this is what you're staying for. All of it. The good parts and the horrific parts. The man who takes you to churches in Italy and the man who puts bullets in traitors. They're not separate. They're both me. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. She should leave. Should take his offer and run as far and fast as possible. Go back to her old life, to waitressing and worrying about rent, to being normal and safe and uncompromised. But she'd stopped being that person the moment she signed her name on that contract. Maybe even before that. Maybe the moment she'd walked into Rico's office, desperate and drowning, and agreed to trade her freedom for her father's life. I'm not leaving, she said quietly. Rico's expression shifted. Lena, I said, I'm not leaving. I saw what I saw. It's burned into my brain, and I'll probably have nightmares for months, but I'm still not leaving. She stepped closer. You were right earlier. I chose this world. I chose survival over morality. I chose dirty hands and blood money because the alternative was watching my father die. So I don't get to claim shock now. I don't get to pretend I didn't know who you were. Knowing and witnessing are different. I'm aware. Lena reached out, took his hand. It was still steady, no shake, no sign of what he'd done an hour ago. But I'm choosing to stay anyway. Not because I think I can change you, not because I have some naive fantasy about saving you from yourself, but because I made a deal, and more than that, because... She stopped, the words catching. Because what? Because I care about you, despite everything, despite tonight, despite knowing exactly what you are. Lena looked up at him. So I'm staying, and we're going to figure out how to live with what that means. Rico stared at her like she'd grown wings. You're insane. Probably, but so are you, so we'll match. He kissed her then, hard and desperate and tasting like relief. His hands tangled in her wet hair, pulling her closer. Lena kissed him back, pouring weeks of tension and confusion and fear into contact. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Rico pressed his forehead to hers. This is still a mistake. Stop saying that. I can't. Because it's true. Rico's hands moved to her face, cradling it like she was something precious. You're the only good thing in my life right now, and I'm going to ruin you. It's inevitable. Then ruin me. Lena's voice was steady. But stop pushing me away while you do it. They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other and the weight of choices neither of them could take back. Then Rico kissed her again, slower this time. When he pulled back, something had shifted in his expression. A wall coming down. Not all the way, but enough. Stay with me tonight, he said quietly. Not in separate rooms. With me. Okay. He led her to his bedroom, the one she'd never been invited into. It was simpler than she expected. Dark furniture, minimal decoration, a bed that looked like it had never been slept in by more than one person. Rico sat on the edge, pulled her to stand between his legs. I'm not good at this, he said, hands on her hips. At being close to someone. At letting someone in. I'm going to be terrible at it. I noticed, but I want to try. With you. I don't know why, but I do. Rico looked up at her. That terrifies me more than anything else in my life. Welcome to the club. Lena ran her fingers through his hair. We're all terrified. They didn't sleep much that night. Mostly, they just talked, lying tangled together in the dark, trading confessions and vulnerabilities. Rico told her about his father's death, the real story. About taking over at 17 and making decisions that still haunted him. About the first time he'd killed someone and how he'd thrown up after. About building walls so high he'd forgotten how to let anyone close. Lena told him about her mother's death, about being 12 and watching cancer steal her piece by piece, about her father's descent into depression afterward, how she'd become the parent at an age when she should have been worried about homework, about choosing art history because it was the only thing that made sense in a world that felt chaotic and cruel, about the moment in the hospital when she'd realized she'd do anything to save her father, including things that would destroy her. Dawn found them still awake, still talking, still learning the topography of each other's damage. Rico traced patterns on her shoulder, his voice quiet in the gray light. I need to tell you something about tonight. About Marcus. Lena stiffened. Okay. Before we killed him, he confirmed something I suspected. The Constantines know about you. Not everything, but they know you exist. That you're my wife. Rico's hand stilled. That makes you a target. A real one. How real? Real enough that I'm assigning you personal security. Real enough that you don't go anywhere alone. Real enough that... He stopped, jaw tightening. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid. But it happened anyway. Because I was careless. Because I let my guard down. Rico sat up, ran a hand through his hair. Victor Constantine is not someone you underestimate. He's old school, violent. He'll see you as leverage, a way to get to me. We need to be prepared for that. Prepared how? I'm moving you to the secure wing of the house. Reinforced windows, panic room, armed guards 24/7. You hate it, I know, but it's necessary. Rico turned to look at her. I'm also teaching you to shoot and fight. Basic self-defense at minimum. Lena's stomach dropped. You think it's going to come to that? I think we prepare for worst-case scenarios and hope they never happen. Rico cupped her face. I won't let anyone hurt you, but I need you to be able to protect yourself if I can't get to you in time. This is insane. This is my world, your world now. Rico kissed her forehead. I'm sorry I brought you into it, but since you're here, I'm going to do everything in my power to keep you alive. How romantic. I'm not good at romance, but I'm excellent at survival. That'll have to be enough. They got out of bed as the sun rose properly, turning the sky from gray to gold. Rico had calls to make, damage control from last night. Lena went back to her room, soon to be former room apparently, and tried to process everything that had happened in the past 12 hours. She'd witnessed a murder, had confronted the full reality of who Rico was, had chosen to stay anyway, had spent the night in his arms talking about trauma and damage, had woken up to learn she was now an active target for a Russian crime family. It was, objectively, the worst series of decisions she'd ever made. But as she stood in the shower letting hot water pound against her shoulders, she couldn't bring herself to regret any of it. She'd chosen this, chosen him, chosen to stop hiding from the truth of what their arrangement had become. Whatever happened next, at least it would be real. The secure wing turned out to be less prison and more fortress. Lena's new room had windows that could stop bullets, a door that locked from the inside with a code only she and Rico knew, and a panic button disguised as a light switch. A guard named Marcus, different Marcus, younger, with kind eyes and a scar along his neck, stationed himself outside 24/7. This is excessive, Lena said on her second day in the new accommodations. Rico was going through her closet, removing anything he deemed too accessible from the outside. This is necessary. There's a difference. You're being paranoid. I'm being realistic. He pulled out a dress she'd worn to one of their dinner parties. The Constantines have people everywhere. They're patient. They'll wait for the right moment, the right vulnerability. I'm not giving them one. So I'm just supposed to live in a cage? Rico stopped, turned to face her. You're supposed to stay alive. That's the priority. They'd been like this for 3 days, tense and circling each other. The intimacy from that night had created new problems instead of solving old ones. Now they were too close to maintain distance, but not close enough to be comfortable. Lena felt like she was learning a new language without a dictionary. When do the shooting lessons start? She asked, changing the subject. Tomorrow, 6 a.m., basement range. Rico resumed his inspection of her belongings. Wear something you can move in. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. He pulled out a scarf, examined it, put it back. You need to be able to protect yourself. I can't be with you every moment. You've been with me every moment for 3 days, and I'll continue to be until I'm sure you're safe. Rico closed the closet, faced her fully. I know this is hard. I know you hate feeling trapped, but the alternative is you dead, and that's not happening. Not on my watch. The intensity in his voice made her chest tight. This was new, too. Rico caring openly, without apology. It was disorienting and addictive in equal measure. Okay, she said quietly. 6 a.m. I'll be ready. Something in his expression softened. He crossed the room, pulled her close. I'm sorry. For all of this. For dragging you deeper into a world you never asked for. I chose to stay, remember? You chose before you knew how bad it could get. Rico's arms tightened around her. There's still time to change your mind. I can have you on a plane tonight. Somewhere they'll never find you. And leave my father? Leave you? Lena pulled back to look at him. No, I'm staying. We're doing this together. Together. Rico tested the word like it was foreign. I'm not used to that concept. I noticed. You're terrible at it. I'll try to improve. That's all I'm asking. He kissed her then, soft and searching, like he was still trying to figure out what they were doing. When they broke apart, his phone was ringing. He checked it, frowned. I have to take this. He stepped away, answered in Italian. His voice shifted, became harder. The conversation lasted 2 minutes, mostly him listening. When he hung up, his expression was grim. What is it? Victor Constantine requested a meeting. Tomorrow night. Neutral territory. Rico pocketed his phone. He wants to discuss terms. Terms for what? For not going to war. Rico moved to the window, stared out at the grounds. Marcus's death created a power vacuum. The Constantines are making a play for territory we've held for a decade. This meeting is either a negotiation or a trap. Which do you think it is? Both. Rico's reflection in the glass looked tired. Victor doesn't do anything without multiple agendas. He'll negotiate in good faith while planning to betray me the moment it's advantageous. So don't go. I have to go. Refusing would show weakness. Weakness gets you killed in this business. Rico turned around. But I'm not taking any chances. Extra security, escape routes planned, weapons ready, and you stay here, in this room, with guards I trust. You're expecting violence. I'm preparing for it. There's a difference. Rico came back to her, took her hands. Promise me you'll stay here, no matter what happens, no matter what you hear. You stay in this room until I come back for you. Rico, promise me, Lena. The urgency in his voice scared her more than anything else. I promise. Good. He kissed her forehead. I'll be back before you know it. But his eyes told a different story. He was preparing for the possibility that he might not come back at all. The shooting lessons started at 6 a.m. as promised. The basement range was professional grade, soundproofed, and equipped with targets and enough ammunition to supply a small war. Rico handed her a pistol, showed her how to hold it, how to aim, how to breathe before pulling the trigger. It's going to kick, he warned. Don't fight it, let it happen, then reset. Lena squeezed the trigger. The recoil jolted through her arms, the sound massive even with ear protection. Her shot went wide, missing the target entirely. Again! She fired 6 more times, hit the target twice, both times nowhere near the center. You're anticipating the recoil, Rico said, moving behind her. His hands covered hers on the gun, adjusting her grip. Relax. Trust the weapon. They practiced for 2 hours. By the end, Lena's arms ached and her ears rang despite protection. But she was hitting the target consistently, even if her grouping was scattered. Better, Rico said as they packed up. We'll do this every morning until it's muscle memory. How long until I'm actually good at this? Depends on your definition of good. You'll never be a sharpshooter, but you'll be competent enough to defend yourself if necessary. Rico secured the weapons in a safe. That's all that matters. They went upstairs to find Vera waiting in the kitchen, her expression tense. We have a problem. Rico's entire demeanor shifted. What kind of problem? Sarah Reeves called. She wants to meet with Lena today. Says it's urgent. No, Rico said immediately. Not happening. She said if Lena doesn't show, she's going to assume we're hiding something, that we're vulnerable. Vera looked at Lena. She specifically said she has information about the Constantines. Information you need. Rico's jaw tightened. It's a setup. Maybe. Or maybe she's genuine. Vera crossed her arms. Sarah's ambitious, but she's not stupid. If she's offering information, she wants something in return. Question is whether what she's offering is worth the risk. It's not. It might be. Lena surprised herself by speaking. If she knows something about Victor's plans, something that could help tomorrow night, don't we need to hear it? Not at the cost of putting you in danger. I'll be in danger regardless. At least this way we might get useful intelligence. Lena looked at Rico. You said I needed to be smart, careful, ruthless when necessary. This is me being all three. Rico stared at her for a long moment. I don't like this. I know, but we're doing it anyway. They compromised. The meeting happened at a cafe Rico's people controlled, with security stationed at every exit and Lena wearing a tracking device disguised as a bracelet. Rico wanted to come along, but Lena vetoed that. Sarah specifically asked for me alone. You showing up defeats the purpose. I'll be 2 blocks away. Anything feels wrong, you leave immediately. Yes, dear. Rico didn't smile. I'm serious, Lena. These people are not your friends. They're predators looking for weakness. I remember the speech. I'll be careful. The cafe was upscale, the kind of place where coffee cost $8 and came with foam art. Sarah sat at a corner table, looking perfect in a cream-colored suit. She stood when Lena approached, kissed both her cheeks. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. You made it sound important. It is, Sarah gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. We have a lot to discuss and not much time. Lena sat, accepted coffee she had no intention of drinking. Vera said you have information about the Constantines. I do. But first, I need to know if you are aware of what's actually happening. Sarah leaned forward. Rico's meeting with Victor tomorrow night isn't a negotiation. It's an execution. Victor has no intention of making peace. He's planning to kill your husband and take over his entire operation. Lena's blood went cold. How do you know this? Because David and I have been in talks with Victor for the past month. He's been recruiting allies, building a coalition. He offered us a significant stake in Rico's territory if we supported his play. Sarah's expression was serious. We declined, but not everyone did. Who accepted? That's what I'm here to tell you, but I need something in return. Sarah sipped her coffee. When this is over, when Rico has dealt with Victor and his traitors, David and I want protection, guarantee of territory, a seat at the table. I can't promise that. You can talk to Rico, convince him we're valuable allies. Sarah's eyes were hard. We're risking everything by coming to you. Victor finds out, we're dead. So yes, you can promise that. Lena studied the woman across from her. Sarah was ambitious, calculating, exactly the type of person Rico had warned her about. But she was also smart enough to pick the winning side. And right now, she was offering information that could save Rico's life. Tell me who the traitors are. Sarah pulled out her phone, slid it across the table. A list of names. Lena recognized 3 of them from dinner parties, business associates Rico trusted, people who'd smiled at her while planning to betray her husband. Gregory Chen is leading the defection. He's convinced 6 others to join him. They're providing logistic support for tomorrow night, location intel, security gaps, exit routes. Sarah took back her phone. Victor plans to ambush Rico the moment he arrives, pin him down, eliminate his people, and make an example of him. Lena's hands shook. She clasped them together under the table. Why are you telling me this? You barely know me. Because I'm a good judge of character, and I think you're underestimated in this world. Everyone sees you as Rico's pretty wife. They don't see what I see. Sarah smiled, sharp. You're a survivor, you're smart, and you genuinely care about him, which makes you dangerous because you'll do whatever it takes to protect him. That's the kind of ally I want. And if Rico doesn't agree to your terms, then David and I disappear. We have contingencies, but I'd prefer not to use them. Sarah stood, straightened her jacket. Talk to him, convince him. We can help each other. She left before Lena could respond, disappearing into the mid-morning crowd. Lena sat there for a moment, processing everything, then pulled out her phone. Rico answered on the first ring. Are you okay? I'm fine, but you need to hear this. She told him everything on the drive back, Rico's expression growing darker with each word. When she finished, silence filled the car. Gregory Chen, he said finally. I should have seen it coming. He's been positioning himself for years. What are you going to do? Cancel the meeting. Go on the offensive. If Victor wants a war, I'll give him one. Rico's voice was cold, controlled. But first, I'm going to deal with the traitors, starting with Gregory. And Sarah's request? I'll consider it. She took a risk telling you this. That deserves acknowledgement. Rico glanced at her. You did well. Getting that information, staying calm, not agreeing to anything without talking to me first. I learned from the best. You're adapting faster than I expected. Rico's hand found hers. That worries me as much as it impresses me. Why? Because the better you get at surviving this world, the more it changes you. I don't want you to lose yourself in the process. Lena squeezed his hand. Too late. I lost myself the day I signed that contract. Now I'm just figuring out who I am without her. Rico was quiet for the rest of the drive. When they pulled through the estate gates, he turned to her. Stay inside tonight. I have work to do. The traitors? Among other things. Rico's expression was grim. This is going to get messy, Lena. Bloodier than Marcus. I need to make a statement, and statements in my world are written in violence. I know. She touched his face. Be careful. Always. He kissed her, quick and fierce. I'll be back before dawn. He wasn't. Lena waited in her room, watching the clock tick past midnight, past 2, past 4. She tried sleeping, couldn't, tried reading, gave up after the same page 3 times. Finally, around 5:30, she heard cars returning. She met Rico at the door. He looked exhausted, his suit jacket gone, his shirt stained with something she didn't want to identify. Blood on his hands, literally, not metaphorically. How many? She asked. 7. All the traitors Sarah identified. Rico moved past her toward the stairs. Victor will know by morning. This is going to accelerate his timeline. So we prepare. So we go to war. Rico stopped halfway up, turned to look at her. I'm moving you tomorrow. Safe house outside the city. Armed guards, secure location. You'll stay there until this is over. No. Lena, I said no. I'm not hiding while you fight. She climbed the stairs to meet him. You said we're in this together. That means I don't run when things get hard. This isn't hard. This is deadly. Victor's going to come at me with everything he has. Anyone close to me becomes a target. Rico's voice cracked slightly. I can't protect you and fight a war simultaneously. Then teach me to protect myself better. Give me the training, the weapons, the knowledge, but don't send me away. Lena took his bloody hands in hers. I chose to stay. I chose you. Let me stand beside you. Rico looked at their joined hands, his expression breaking. If something happens to you, then it happens. But it won't be because I was hiding in a safe house while you fought alone. Lena met his eyes. You're not alone anymore, Rico. Get used to it. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. You're going to get yourself killed. Probably, but so are you. At least we'll go down together. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be. It's just true. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other in the pre-dawn light. Then Rico pulled back, his jaw set. Fine, you stay. But we do this my way. Training intensifies. You learn not just shooting, but hand-to-hand combat, escape tactics, emergency protocols. You follow my orders without question when things go bad. Agreed? Agreed. And if I tell you to run, you run. No arguments, no heroics. You save yourself. I can't promise that. Promise it anyway. Lena hesitated, then nodded. They both knew she was lying, but sometimes love was built on necessary lies. The next week was brutal. Rico trained her 6 hours a day, shooting, fighting, scenario planning. He was relentless, pushing her until she collapsed, then pushing harder. She learned to shoot moving targets, to fight dirty, to spot exits and assess threats. She learned the weight of a gun in her hands and the sound of her own breathing when adrenaline spiked. She also learned about Rico's empire in ways she hadn't before. He showed her the legitimate businesses that funded the illegal ones, the networks of loyalty that held his organization together, the careful balance of fear and respect that kept enemies at bay. He was preparing her, she realized, teaching her everything in case he didn't survive what was coming. The thought terrified her more than any training exercise. On the 8th day, Vera brought news. Victor's made his move. He's taken over 3 of our distribution points. He's also put out a contract on you. Lena's stomach dropped. A contract? $5 million to anyone who delivers you alive to him. Vera's expression was grim. You're officially the most valuable target in the city. Fantastic. Rico was already on his phone, issuing orders in rapid Italian. When he hung up, his expression was cold fury. This ends tonight. I'm not waiting for him to come to us. Rico looked at Lena. I need you to stay here, locked in the secure wing. I'm taking everyone I trust to Victor's headquarters. We're finishing this. Let me come with you. Absolutely not. Rico, this is not a negotiation. His voice was steel. You stay here where you're protected. I can't fight if I'm worried about you getting caught in the crossfire. And I can't sit here wondering if you're coming back. You're going to have to. Rico pulled her close, kissed her hard. I love you. I should have said it sooner, should have admitted it weeks ago. But I love you, and that means keeping you safe, even if you hate me for it. Lena's eyes burned. I love you too, you stubborn, impossible, violent. I know. Rico kissed her again. Stay alive, that's all I'm asking. Same to you. He left with 10 men, armed and grim-faced. Lena watched from the window as they disappeared down the drive and felt something tear in her chest. She'd survived so much already: poverty, grief, forced marriage, moral compromise. But watching Rico drive toward possible death felt like a different kind of survival, the kind that left scars that never healed. She tried to wait patiently. Lasted 20 minutes before she was pacing. Tried calling him, got no answer, called again. Nothing. The silence was worse than any sound. Around midnight, young Marcus knocked on her door. Mrs. Varela, we have a situation. Lena opened the door. What kind of situation? We've lost contact with Mr. Varela's team. Last transmission was an hour ago. Sounded like heavy fighting. Marcus looked worried. We're getting conflicting reports. Some say they're pinned down. Others say they've been captured. Captured? Lena's blood went cold. By Victor? We don't know. Vera's trying to get confirmation, but Marcus stopped as gunfire erupted from somewhere in the house. Get back! Lock the door! What's happening? We're under attack. They've breached the perimeter. Marcus pushed her back into the room. Stay here. Don't come out for anyone except Mr. Varela or Vera. He pulled the door shut. Lena heard the lock engage, heard his footsteps running. Then more gunfire, closer now, shouting, the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. She grabbed the gun Rico had given her from the nightstand drawer, checked the magazine like he'd taught her. Fully loaded. Safety off. She moved away from the door, positioned herself in the corner where she could see anyone who entered. The fighting lasted 10 minutes that felt like hours. Then silence. Footsteps approaching her door. She raised the gun, hand steady despite her racing heart. The door exploded inward. Not opened. Exploded, the lock blown out. 3 men in tactical gear rushed in, weapons raised. Lena fired twice before they could react. One dropped. The other 2 dove for cover, returning fire. Bullets punched through the wall above her head. She rolled, fired again, missed. One of them was circling, trying to flank her. She shot at him, hit his shoulder. He went down cursing in Russian. The 3rd man grabbed her from behind, his arm around her throat. The gun clattered from her hands. She fought, using techniques Rico had drilled into her. Elbow to the ribs, stomp on his instep, throw her head back into his nose. He loosened his grip enough for her to break free. She scrambled for the gun. He kicked it away, advancing. She grabbed a lamp instead, swung it hard. It shattered against his head. He stumbled, and she ran. Out into the hallway, past bodies, some hers, some theirs. Down the stairs, heading for Rico's office, where she knew he kept more weapons. Behind her, footsteps pounding, someone shouting orders in Russian. She made it to the office, slammed the door, locked it, wrenched open the desk drawer, guns, ammunition, a knife. She armed herself, backed away from the door. It exploded inward like her bedroom had. This time, it wasn't tactical gear. It was Victor Constantine himself, flanked by 4 men. He was older than his photos, silver-haired and cold-eyed. He smiled when he saw her. "Mrs. Varela, we finally meet." Lena raised the gun. "Stay back." "Or what? You'll shoot me?" Victor laughed. "Your husband is dead, little girl. My men killed him an hour ago. This empire is mine now, including you." "You're lying." "Am I?" Victor gestured, and one of his men pulled out a phone, showed her a photo. Rico on the ground, blood pooling around him, eyes closed. Lena's world tilted. "No." "Yes. So put down the gun. Accept the inevitable. You belong to me now." Victor stepped closer. "I'm going to enjoy breaking you, teaching you your place, making you regret ever catching Rico Varela's attention." Lena's hand shook. Rico was dead. Her husband, the man she'd fallen for against all logic, was dead. Everything was over. Except it wasn't. Because if Rico was dead, she had nothing left to lose. She fired, hit Victor in the chest. His eyes widened in shock as he fell. His men raised their weapons, but gunfire from behind them cut them down. Vera appeared in the doorway, smoking gun in hand. "Nice shot." "Is it true?" Lena's voice broke. "Is Rico dead? Look at the photo again, really look." Lena picked up the dropped phone with shaking hands, looked at the image of Rico bleeding on the ground, and saw what she'd missed before. His chest was rising and falling. He was breathing. "He's alive?" "Last I heard, he was shot but stable. He took Victor's headquarters and was heading back here when he got word about the attack." Vera grabbed Lena's arm. "Come on, we need to secure the house before more of them show up." They found young Marcus alive but injured, 3 other guards dead. The attackers were all down, dead or dying. It was over. The assault had failed. Rico burst through the front door an hour later, bloody and limping but alive. His eyes found Lena immediately. She ran to him and he caught her, pulling her close despite what had to be incredible pain. "You're okay. You're okay." He was repeating it like a prayer. "When I heard they'd breached the house, I'm fine. You taught me well." Lena pulled back to look at him. "You're shot." "Vest caught most of it. I'll live." Rico cupped her face. "Victor? Dead. I killed him." Something shifted in Rico's expression, pride mixed with sorrow. "I'm sorry you had to do that." "I'm not." Lena's voice was steady. "He came to take everything. I stopped him. That's what survival looks like, right?" Rico kissed her forehead. "You're magnificent and terrible, and I don't deserve you." "Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." The cleanup took days. Victor's organization crumbled without him. His lieutenants scattered or captured. The traitors were dealt with. Territory was redistributed. Rico consolidated power, bringing in Sarah and David Reeves as allies like he'd promised. The empire stabilized, stronger than before. And through it all, Lena stood beside him. Not as decoration, not as property, as a partner. She attended meetings, offered opinions, made decisions. She was learning the business from the inside, becoming fluent in the language of power and violence. It changed her. She felt it happening, felt the girl who'd waited tables and worried about rent fading into memory. She was someone else now, someone harder, someone who'd killed to protect what was hers and slept soundly after. 2 months after Victor's death, Rico found her in the library reading. He sat beside her, took her hand. "I have something for you." He handed her papers. Legal documents. Lena scanned them, confused. "What is this?" "The contract. The original one we signed." Rico pointed to specific clauses. "I'm voiding it, all of it. Your father's care continues regardless, but you're free to leave. No obligations, no strings. You can walk away whenever you want." Lena stared at the papers, then at him. "Why?" "Because I want you to choose. Not because you have to. Not because you're bound by some agreement you made in desperation, but because you want to." Rico's voice was soft. "I love you, Lena. I want you here. But I want it to be your choice. Real choice, not coerced." Lena set down the papers, cupped his face. "You idiot! I chose weeks ago. The contract stopped mattering the moment we stopped pretending. So you'll stay? I'll stay. Not because of the contract. Not because I'm afraid or have nowhere else to go. But because I love you. Because this world we're building, however brutal, is ours." She kissed him softly. "I'm choosing you, Rico Varela, every day, over and over. Is that clear enough? Rico pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. Crystal clear. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the library, surrounded by books about people who'd done terrible things for reasons that seemed good at the time. Outside, the city spread beneath them, full of danger and possibility in equal measure. Lena had learned something important over the past months. There was no such thing as clean survival. No way to protect what you loved without getting blood on your hands. No path through life that didn't require compromise and choice and living with consequences. She'd started this journey thinking she was sacrificing herself, trading her freedom for her father's life, taking a deal with the devil because she had no choice. But somewhere between the contract and now, she'd discovered something. Freedom wasn't about avoiding hard choices. It was about making them with eyes open, about owning the cost of your survival. She'd chosen violence over her father's death, chosen a violent man over safe emptiness, chosen to fight rather than hide. And yes, it had changed her, made her harder, more dangerous, more willing to do terrible things for the people she loved. But it had also made her real, authentically, messily, unrepentantly real. She'd married Rico Varela to save her father, stayed with him because running felt like cowardice, fell for him because he was broken in all the ways she was learning to be. And together, they'd built something that looked nothing like love should, but felt more honest than any fairy tale. 6 months later, they had another wedding. Small, intimate, in that church in Italy where Rico's family had been making bad decisions for generations. This time, there was no contract, no transaction, just two damaged people choosing each other despite knowing exactly what that choice meant. Thomas Ardent gave her away, healthy and strong, crying through the entire ceremony. He still believed the fairy tale version, that they'd fallen in love, rushed into marriage, built something beautiful together. Lena let him believe it. Some lies were kinder than truth. After, standing on the cliff overlooking the Mediterranean, Lena turned to her husband. Any regrets? Rico considered the question seriously. About 1,000, but none of them involve you. That's not particularly romantic. I'm not a romantic. I'm a realist who loves you anyway. Rico pulled her close. We're going to have a complicated life, dangerous, messy, nothing like what people dream of. I know. And you're okay with that? Lena looked out at the endless water, at the sun setting over a sea that had witnessed generations of violence and beauty. She thought about the girl she'd been, desperate, drowning, willing to sell herself for survival. And she thought about who she'd become, someone who'd killed to protect what was hers, who'd chosen blood over innocence, who'd stood in the fire and come out forged instead of destroyed. I'm more than okay with it, she said finally. This is who we are, who I am now, and I wouldn't change it even if I could. Rico kissed her temple. You're terrifying. I learned from the best. They stood together as the sun disappeared, two people bound by choice rather than circumstance. The contract that had brought them together was void, burned months ago in Rico's office fireplace. But the commitment they'd built since, earned through violence and honesty and refusing to let go, that was real, permanent. Written not in legal language but in shared damage and deliberate choice. Lena Varela had learned that survival wasn't pretty, that love looked different for different people, that sometimes the only way forward was through blood and compromise, that you could lose yourself and find something stronger in the wreckage. She'd started as a transaction, become a partner, evolved into something she didn't have words for yet. But whatever she was choosing it every single day, and that made all the difference. In the end, maybe that was the lesson. Not that love conquered all, or that good triumphed over evil, but that people were complicated, that choosing survival meant accepting cost, that you could be broken and whole simultaneously, that violence and tenderness could coexist in the same human heart. Lena had married a monster, discovered he was human, became something of a monster herself in the process, and found somehow that she was okay with all of it, because real life wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy and brutal and required getting your hands dirty. But it was hers. They were theirs. And she'd chosen it with eyes wide open, consequences and all. That was enough. That would always be enough.